some of these things can go together. We'll be able to figure it out.
We are live.
So welcome everyone and all the viewers out there on our webcast. This is the 2017 election webcast night. I'm joined today with my co-host, retiring councillor Helen Rice. My name is Dan Wong. I am a former councillor for the City of Grande Prairie. How are you doing tonight, Helen?
Really good, really good. Obviously a little anxious, I think, like most of the people who will be watching.
Yes, it's exciting times. Like I was thinking, you know, there's a new Star Trek TV series on now. There's a Justice League and Thor movie just on the precipice of being released. And the other thing being released tonight is the winner of our municipal election.
Winners.
Winners, yes.
There will be many because this is the 20th election since Grande Prairie became a city.
So just to let everyone know out there that today's election is province-wide, and it also includes councils for cities, towns, counties, and municipal districts.
And we're also electing school board trustees for both the public and separate school districts.
Yes, and a reminder to all those people out there who have happened to tune in today but haven't got out to vote yet, you still have time. Polls close at 8 p.m. and we should expect the results really soon after that.
Yeah, this electronic voting has really tightened that up, hasn't it?
Yes, you bet. Like what we mean by electronic voting is that your card is now scanned and tabulated on the spot, so all they have to do is bring the results electronically. Now, the requirements for voters: you must be at least 18 years of age or older, you must be a Canadian citizen and a resident of Alberta for at least 6 months, and you have to be living in the City of Grande Prairie on election day. So it doesn't matter how long you've lived in Grande Prairie. Maybe you just moved here yesterday. As long as you've lived in Grande Prairie 6 months ago, so that would be March 18th, 2017 or later or earlier, you'll be allowed to vote in this election.
Yeah, you have to be living in Alberta for 6 months. No
Alberta.
Requirement on Grande Prairie.
Yes, that's right. So let's take a look at who's running, Helen.
Wow, that's exciting.
So the mayoral candidates. We have 3 of them running. We'll start with Dick Bailey. Dick Bailey is, do we have the slide? A little technical difficulty here.
So there are 3 mayoralty candidates, I believe, Dan.
That's correct.
And
Dick Bailey, Bill Gibbon, and Theodore Nikiforuk.
Absolutely. And then for council, there's actually 19 running. And people say this is lots. It's not unduly lots. I mean, we usually have 16, 17, so it is the most, but it's not uncommonly large amount of candidates.
Yes, that's true. So if we want to take a look at the backgrounds of each of these candidates, let's start with the mayoralty candidates. We have Dick Bailey, who is in business development with Scott Safety. Our incumbent Mayor Bill Gibbon, his background was IT. He was in marketing, worked for high-tech business systems. And Theodore Nikiforuk, he was a crew manager for Brock Canada. Here's some, let's talk about the councillor candidates.
Okay, we have for the councillors who are running are Clyde Blackburn, who is a retired manager from ATCO.
Yes, Dylan Bressy, who is an area director for an organization called Young Life.
And Jackie Clayton, who is in public relations with the Paul Murray Group. She's an incumbent as well.
John Crokin, past councillor for a few terms back in the day. He's a realtor with Century 21.
And we have Shannon Dunfield, who's a district NMI coordinator for the public school district.
We have Sydney Fletcher, who is a retired teacher.
And we have Eunice Friesen, who's a business owner. She owns Bear Creek Funeral Homes.
We have John Kriska. He is also a business owner. He owns Better Than Fred's and Red Rock Cafe.
And Kevin McLean, who is he has a renovation business and an operator at Weyerhaeuser, and he also is an incumbent.
We have another past councillor running again, Yad Minhas, He owns Revolution Auto, Minhas Brother Trucking, and the Paradise Inn.
And Cheryl Montgomery, who is the marketing manager for Side Management.
We have Timothy Nesbitt, who is a program coordinator for Grande Prairie's Soccer Association.
And Kevin O'Toole, another incumbent. He's a business owner, ANS Firearm Safety.
We have Wade Palat. He is a business owner. He owns Unique Home Concepts and Inception Homes.
And Tyler Savard is a business owner, Synergy Promotions.
Morgan Seward. He's the owner of Blazer Security.
And Chris Thiessen, who's also an incumbent. He worked for Canadian Mental Health, and as I say, he was an incumbent.
Cam White, who is an actor and entertainer in the city.
And Mike Wolfel, who's in sales at Revolution Auto. You know, I was saying, talking to someone today, and I mentioned that, you know, the ideal council elects 9 people, so you get a cross section of the entire community on the council. You have those whose passion is sports, you get arts, you get, you know, the helping agencies. So when I look at all of these people and what they do, you know, it's very reassuring that we're going to end up with that kind of council.
Absolutely. Like, if you look at the cross-section, we have the young, we have the older candidates, we have some that work in industry, some that own their own businesses, social services, arts and culture. It's just fantastic. And I think we really need to give these candidates a lot of credit for putting their names up and bringing forward issues at election time. I think it takes a lot of guts to put yourself out there and then just let the chips fall where they may.
Absolutely. I think there were a lot of nervous people around town today, and they will be eagerly awaiting the results come in after 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting result. I've been trying to figure out who's going to win, and I know that it's going to be a tight race, especially down at the bottom, everywhere from 6th, 7th, 8th on. I imagine those numbers are going to be really tight. There's been a lot of community engagement, it seems, throughout this whole election campaign, don't you think, Helen?
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things I've noticed is the heated discussion on social media. Facebook has had a few groups where people have been able to talk. There's been a group created called Talk GP, hosted by Derek Hall and Joel Park, and they've done interviews with all the candidates, and their production was very well done. They were able to get into a lot more details of the issues than what we could have done at the chamber. I'm on the Grande Prairie and District Chamber of Commerce board, and we did an election forum. And in that format, with 19 councillor candidates and 3 mayoral candidates, it made it very difficult for us to get the points of view across of everyone. But that video that we took, the Facebook Live video, had over 9,000 views as of today. So I thought that was really impressive.
And I'm interested to see, this is the most active social media has ever been during an election, very much so. And I wonder if it affects people going out to vote. You know, if you're on social media and you're talking to people and discussing and perhaps arguing with them, maybe you don't feel the need to then go out and vote because you've sort of had your say as it relates to the election.
Yes, I hope that's not the case, but I know exactly what you mean, Helen. And there's been a lot more people doing coffee shop campaigns and doing this, you know, the door-to-door knocking. And again, when you get a chance to vent to your prospective candidates, maybe that does slow down the voters. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping it stirs them up and gets them out. It looks like from a lot of anecdotal evidence that I've seen, I've heard people say that the advance polls seemed busier than ever, and I'm hoping that that's true.
I noticed that too last Friday here. It was a steady stream. They were keeping up nicely, but it was steady turnover.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that I've noticed too is it seems that the younger voters seem to be more engaged, especially since most of the campaigns have been run on social media. There's also been a forum done by the grade 6 classrooms. This year it was done at, or this election it was done at École Montrose. And that again brings out at least I think it raises awareness at the younger levels. And there are still teachers that are there that have a chance to vote. There's kids that go home and talk to their parents. And I'm hoping again that starts to bring a little bit more or a little bit less apathy and a little bit more engagement in our community.
Well, even if it's not election time, I've gone to various schools and talked, and particularly to the grade sixes. They're like, whoa, are they ever informed, knowledgeable? And they'll back you right down. They won't take platitudes, and they're very well. It's pretty impressive. I see past Councillor Lauren Radburn has come in as a past superintendent of the public school. He must be happy to hear that comment.
And I see a nod of approval there. So with the large number of candidates out there, Helen, there was a question that was raised at the Chamber Forum, and it didn't get released to the candidates, but someone asked, should Grande Prairie be on a ward system? So I'd be interested to hear your comments on that.
Absolutely not. I believe that, and I've observed everywhere they have the ward system, they're fighting for their own little area and to heck with the rest of the community. So, if you have everybody representing all of the city, I think they have to give a more fair and balanced response to the issues.
Okay. Now, does that opinion change with the size of the city? Like there's Edmonton and Calgary are broken up into wards, and they're massive. There's hundreds of people running for those positions. I would think a name would get lost in that list.
I suppose, but again, Edmonton and Calgary councillors were some of them that I seen being very, very protective of their area. It was kind of like, my area is best, to heck with yours.
Right.
So,
and there are other cons to the ward system, because I agree with you. I know Grande Prairie is just not the size. We're not ready for the ward system, I don't believe. The one or a couple of arguments against that is you really have to be living in your ward to be running in that area. So, you could have 4 or 5 people that are just excellent candidates, all living in one area, and now the city has to choose only 1 or 2 of them to represent, and the rest get dropped from the list, and that would be really unfortunate. The other thing I could see being a really detractor to that is you could be an excellent candidate and all your supporters live on the other side of town.
The other thing that has come up, kind of sliding away from the ward system thing, but at one point several years ago was brought up, you must have a minimum of 3 women. And I said, I'm not voting for that. When I sit down at that table, I want it to be known that I'm there with every right the same as the other people around the table. Not that I'm there because I'm one of 3 as a kind of a charity case. And believe me, that's how you would be treated. If you were a quorum person.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. I think the best candidates should always win, and they should be a good representation of the city. And I think that we've kind of struck that balance.
We have had councils I've served on that had more women than men. There was.
I saw the picture.
Yes, Joe McDonald, myself. Yeah, there was 5 women, 4 men.
That's fantastic. And this election, I'm getting the sense that we could see that again. I know that the female candidates this time are very strong, so they're going to give the men a run for their money. Let's talk a little bit about the issues raised during the campaign period. We only had, 5 or 6 weeks of an official election campaign period, but people have been campaigning a little bit earlier, and the issues were discussed pretty much all summer. So, of course, top of the list, and it's an age-old campaign issue, taxes.
And it was interesting to me, I got calls from several of the candidates who wanted to know if I would meet with them, and I did. I was impressed at the amount of homework they had done, the background information they had, that sort of thing. So, yeah, taxes were one, the downtown enhancement project, and where does it go from here?
Yeah, and that one really could be classified as management of construction projects, because I know that wasn't the only one that took a lot of heat this year. Last year was an extremely wet construction season, and almost every construction project was rolled over. It just happens that downtown services so many businesses, and there's a lot of traffic passing through. So it was a major inconvenience for everyone.
And certainly there's been discussion of Performing Arts Center. Do we need it now? Do we wait 5 years? That certainly was the subject of a lot of discussion.
Definitely. Snow removal always comes up every time. I'm surprised that potholes didn't turn out. You know.
And I hesitate to even say the words, but photo radar.
I was
huge.
surprised at that. Photo radar was definitely one of the major issues that got a lot of heated debate on it anyway.
And I wonder if, you know, lots of the arguments seem to mix up photo radar and red light cameras. You know, nobody seems to have a problem with red light cameras. But they do, and what they seem to have the problem with photo radar is if they're hidden, like
Yes.
instead of sitting out in you know, sight. And but they call it photo radar all.
They call it all photo radar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the one I think, well, don't speed, you won't have a problem. But yeah, there are a lot of real passion against them. You know, and it adds money to the city.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people feel like the officers or the whether they're bylaw or their RCMP should be out in plain sight, and they should be showing off that they are patrolling this area or they're enforcing this area. And I'm not sure. Maybe a little of a balanced approach is required for that. But really, if you're speeding, you're speeding.
Yeah. Yes, that's, you know, but yeah, that one does create a lot of angst. Something I believe this council is going to have to re-examine.
Definitely. And the final issue that we saw raised was communication and transparency. Now, I don't know if that's a real issue or if that's just something that's perceived.
Yeah, I don't know if you'll ever find, you know, a majority of people that say, boy, our communication plan is just great. It doesn't seem to matter what you do, it's that far short of the mark. Because I believe, like, communications from the city is excellent. In fact, there are, you know, as we talk about the downtown project, like, it's almost overkill. In fact, it gets so confusing because so much information is coming at you. So, you know.
But I think that comes from just a large working population in Grande Prairie, and that's why our voter turnout always seems to be really low. The people are busy. They're not able to get engaged. They come back to Grande Prairie. They don't know who to vote for. Let's take a look at some of these stats for voter turnout over the past few elections. Now, last election in 2013, we only had 21% of our population, of our eligible voter population, come out and vote. So there was approximately 40,000 eligible voters.
So 2001, we must have had that must have been a mayoralty race. Because traditionally in elections, if there's a mayoralty race, the numbers go up.
Yes, absolutely. 2010 and 2007, there was a big bump there. That was when Wayne Ailing and Dwight Logan ran against each other. They were the two main well-known names anyway, and it was a really tight race. It was a heated race anyway. Dwight Logan ended up winning that one. 2010 was another big election year for us. But even those numbers there, 24.5%, 29.2%, those aren't fantastic numbers.
Look what happened in '98.
Yeah, 37%.
37%, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, and anywhere in the 30s, I think, matches the rest of Alberta. We had a slide just appear a second ago, but let's take a look at that. Voter turnout comparison. Grande Prairie at 21% in 2013. And other than, like I think we're on par with Airdrie and
Wood Buffalo.
But the rest of the communities in Alberta that are comparable in size?
And interestingly enough, the county is not that much different than us.
No, and And I believe, like, if you look at these communities, they are very much working communities. People are just busy, and busy people just don't have time to get engaged, I don't think.
So it'll be interesting when we get the number for what the voter turnout is this year.
Mm-hmm.
That,
So for those people that are just joining us right now, polls close at 8 o'clock today. There's still time to get out. You can go to the City of GP website, cityofgp.com/elections, and you'll be able to find out where your voting station is. So it's typically a school that's close to your neighborhood. And like I said, you have till 8 p.m. It's going to be a tight election. It's really exciting to see who's going to end up as our brand new council. And on that note, let's talk about retiring council members, because some people have said that the reason why there are so many candidates in this election is because we knew early on that at least 3 veterans were retiring. It turned out 4 were retiring. It's yourself, Helen, retiring after, like, you served 38 and a half years on council. We have Lauren Radburn, who spent a decade on council. Dwight Logan, who spent multiple terms on council, maybe not all consecutive, but he was a past mayor. He spent 3 or 4 or maybe 5 terms on council. And then Rory Tarrant, who, again, decided to retire after this term.
but I think that's not uncommon. We had 4 this last term. The one before, we brought 4 new ones on.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah, so that's pretty consistent.
mm-hmm. So what do you think what are your plans after council?
Well,
you've been a fixture on council for so long. Do you know how to survive life after council?
I don't know, and of course it's something that sometimes fills me with terror when I said to my daughter earlier this morning, I was Councillor Rice for over half my life, and so like adjusting to that is going to be huge. I still have my job, I'm not leaving that, but it's going to be and I think one of the things will be interesting to me is I've always been so proud of Grande Prairie. I sat on the board of the Alberta Urban Municipalities as well as the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and I would sit there even after all my years of involvement with looks of horror on my face as some of the people talked about their councils, and they were just horrid, like, just horrid how they treated each other and that. And, it didn't matter who was on council in Grande Prairie. We never seemed to get into that. We may disagree hotly around the table. I mean, obviously there were some exceptions, but those were few and far between. But when we got up from the table, that was all behind us. And that it's phenomenal, that. And so you spend so much time together. I'm sure you recognize this, Dan, that the people you work with on council almost become your quasi-second family, because there are times you spend more time with them than you do with your family.
Yeah, there's no doubt that you definitely bond with the people that you work with.
So will those relationships continue if some of them are on council and I'm no longer am? Well, that will be interesting to me. I suspect that there will be friendships that endure. I mean, myself and Councillor Radburn, myself and Councillor Logan, those are friendships that have built over the years and are based on mutual respect. And he drives me lots of places.
So I wonder how the city's going to get along without you, Helen. Like, really, I called you a fixture, but I don't mean that in a negative sense at all. You have been one of the most engaged councillors in Grande Prairie for the past 40 years. There was never any slowing you down. And, the one benefit that we always had having Helen Rice on council was that she could say things that the average person and the average councillor could never get away with. And that's to anyone. It could be ministers, it could be the premier, anyone at any level of government. Everyone respected Helen Rice.
Well, thank you, Dan. So it's fun. It's been fun. And why don't we get Councillor Radburn up here and get his take on
Absolutely.
some of the, you can join us, but what successful candidates can expect.
So Lauren Radburn served on council from 2007 till 2017. Both Lauren and Helen, they officially will be retiring from council. Now tonight is the night of the election, so we're going to know who our new councilors are, but they're not off duty until the following week. That's at the organizational meeting when the new council is sworn in, and then these guys finally get to turn in their keys.
It's quite interesting too, Dan. I think it should be pointed out there was first Elmer Logan, and then his son Dwight, and then Ernie Radburn, and then Lauren. So we are having some of these family generations follow each other on council. Did you ever feel, Lauren, that people were comparing you to your dad's contribution?
Yeah. Actually, there was enough of a gap that I didn't feel that too much, except on the, Dad got great glee out of this. So when I ran, I'd often go to the lodges and mingle and talk to residents of the lodges. And first of all, some of them said, "Oh, hi, Ernie." And so I said, "Well, I'm Lauren, Ernie's son." And they would say, "Oh, okay, but I'm voting for you. I want you to know because I know Ernie." So Dad was very, very proud of that people held him in fairly high esteem, and he was able to support my efforts.
Right. So your time on council, you spent 10 years, 3 terms, it's a considerable amount of time. Do you have some memorable moments that you'd like to share with us, or just memorable initiatives that you're really proud of?
I think Dan, the one thing that struck me as you two were talking is that Helen was great in terms of, as she intimated or actually said, you can disagree, but let's not be disagreeable with one another. And so I think her leadership ensured that culture continued, and so that actually we got along very, very well. And I think we enjoyed each other's company. And so I think that really helps. What I wouldn't mind doing, Dan, is my 10 years are very rewarding. It was an awesome transition for me from full-time work with leadership in the school district and stay connected and involved in the community. So it was very rewarding, and I will always remember it as a really special chapter in my life. So no regrets, and all positive. A couple things I thought I'd chat about, and you guys can stop me or not, but I think there's some things that voters might not realize and some of the candidates might not realize. One of them is that in terms of candidates, you're one vote. So when you're telling people what you're going to do, you have to be careful, because really you need 5 of you to make things happen. So I think that people, the new councillors, have to, I guess, gain the respect of their colleagues and be articulate and be knowledgeable and be prepared so that they have an opportunity to influence others. So that's what it's about. I think it's about being a member of a team, working together and find out what role you can play on that team. But at the end of the day, it is not only about you, it's about influencing others so that your vision carries the day. And so I think that's something, Helen, Dan, you've been through the process too. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree too, because I've been on the other end of the table debating with the two of you, and Lauren was the calm and collected and very logical voice of reason. Helen is fiery. If she's against you and she's in the middle of a heated discussion, you feel like you're being scolded by your teacher or something like that. But you know, she was also very much driven by common sense, and she would tell you this is practically how you know how you should be setting your policy. So between the two of you, you represent a lot of years on council for experience. And if you look at Dwight Logan and add Rory Tarrant in there, that's over 100 years worth of council experience that we're going to lose. Yeah. And you know, I was always very proud to serve next to the two of you because, you know, because of the respect that both of you have garnered. I always felt myself privileged to be able to work alongside of some very respectable people.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think what they, when new members realize there are 3 standing committees, there are 14 boards and committees, and 22 external boards and committees. And so those are the ones council is on, and they're split up. And so, that's a big workload. That's a huge workload. So if somebody comes in and thinks they're going to bully other people, it's going to be pretty lonely out there.
Yeah, I agree, for sure. I think the other thing is that it's a steep learning curve. So I think in new people and people who are experienced, things change, and you have to keep up with the context of the decision making, whether that be how the community perceives things or leadership within the city management to change things. So I think that part has to be recognized by new people. And I think you just have to be prepared to become engaged and spend the time to do kind of the best job you can do.
It's quite funny, though, when you think how change can come about. Always we have the 3 standing committees, and every member of council has to be on one of those and some 2. And those are kind of like non-optional. You have to be on a standing committee. And so for many, many, many years on council, people went to their standing committees. That's it. And then Lauren came on council. And then Lauren started showing up at every standing committee meeting. And everybody said, oh, I went to all of them. I better go there. It won't look good if I'm not there. And so by the time we finished this term, pretty much every old councillor went to every standing committee meeting. Now, so our new city manager said, yeah, but if that's happening, why do you need the standing committees? So, Lauren, can you comment on that?
Yeah, well, the processes haven't changed, though. You can come to some of the committees that you're not on, but you can't
vote.
You can't make a motion or vote.
Oh, tell me about it, right?
Helen's tried to vote at committee meetings that she's not on that I'm chair of. That's why we know this. But I think a lot of that, Dan, you were in terms of that transition. I think that I've really taken pride in mentoring and coaching, and Helen has for many, many more years, and Dwight as well. And so I think we've invested in the people we've worked with, and hopefully that will help them be leaders and mentors on a go-forward basis.
So this is just an opinion question. Just before this election was called, there was some speculation that your son may put his name forward. Do you see sometime in the next few years there being the history of 3 Radburns?
It would not surprise me. It would not surprise me. But things in life, as we all are aware, is kind of dependent upon work and family and timing. So I would say in the future that would be a possibility, because Dean is certainly involved in the community and wants to serve the community. And I was thinking about this as I came over. I have 3 grandchildren in town too, so who knows what might happen then.
But they're little, you might be then too old to enjoy them.
An incentive to keep on living.
So if we get back to this mentoring thing, I just wanted to comment, there was a lot of give and take on the mentoring side. I sat next to Helen for most of my time on council, and she was a great mentor, but I was the one who had to help her work all the buttons on, when you're asking to speak and turning on and off the microphone, because our automated system always went crazy whenever Helen touched a button there.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. We learned as well. Mentoring's not one way, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit about what the new councillors can expect for their time commitment. Helen mentioned the 3 standing committees. There's also a lot of internal council committees that councillors are assigned to, like the assessment review boards.
14.
Yeah, 14 of them. So you divide that up by the number of councillors. Then there's 22 external boards, committees, and commissions that people will get assigned to. And then on top of all that, you're asked to represent the city at events, ribbon cuttings, proclamation ceremonies, that kind of thing. So talk a little bit about the time commitment, Lauren, because
Yeah,
you're a
sure.
very active council member.
I guess I kept kind of a diary over a number of years, and so kind of my average, my typical week was 20 to 25 hours, and that's what I shared with people when they've talked to me about maybe pursuing a spot on council. Now, the mayor certainly can assign based upon the time availability you have, and so part of that is that some of us have more flexibility in our times than others. But at the end of the day, that 20 hours, I think, is something that they better be prepared to be fully engaged in working that. External committees and organizations in the community. So this last term, last couple of years, I've been on Sports Council, Nighthawk, Library, DTS, can't remember one more. Grand Spirit for a while, but I've been through most of them over the 10 years, but I wanted to highlight that work because for me, that was the grassroots of the community. And so it was so important, I believe, for us to be on those committees because we can provide a city perspective to them, but we can also help them grow and support some amazing volunteers that Grande Prairie has. And that really makes Grande Prairie the place it is. So I wanted to highlight that part of the work because I think it's so, so valuable.
And I guess I would have to, again, really express my gratitude. Lauren was on the Grand Spirit Foundation, and when he determined he wasn't going to run again, he stepped aside. I'd never been on the Grand Spirit Foundation, so I was able to take that role and get in on the last part of getting the Lakeview Lodge open, finished, and open, adding 158 seniors beds. I mean, it was an awesome way to end my term on council, and I have told Lauren that I really appreciate him stepping aside to give me that opportunity because it was very exciting.
Yeah, thanks, Helen. Helen's mentioned that in the public forum, and I really truly appreciate it. One other thing, and I've thought about in terms of the newbies, so to speak, I think getting to know what the city is about and what services we deliver is important. And also, the model of governance that we use is important. If councillors think that they are going to deal directly with staff or change a staff or the way a department works, that isn't happening. Council only has the one boss, or we're the boss of one person, and that's the city manager. And that's how we work. We work through the city manager.
Yeah, and I believe that's the structure that a lot of people aren't aware of, the governance structure that's written right into the Municipal Government Act of how that hierarchy works. So the city manager is the one who has control of the rest of the staff.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think, and we have to ensure, and the city manager helps us with this, to make sure that we're not disciplined in terms of that governance policy only model, but we're a hybrid of that. But for sure, we need to ensure that councils stay out of management and daily operations.
And, I guess I learned when I was quite new, I learned my lesson very, very quickly. I managed the shopping center. And so, said I came to about my second council meeting and said to Mr. Bill Tuttle, who was then the city engineer, do you know that your public works guys are in my mall having coffee every morning from 9 till 9:30? Did you know that? And he said, no, but it doesn't surprise me because you see, they start work at 5, that's their lunch hour. and I learned very quickly there is always a reasonable explanation. So don't jump to the negative. Gotchas usually end up making you look foolish.
Good. So I'm seeing your schedule. Probably need to move on. So I'll thank you for having me with you for a few minutes. I really enjoyed it, and You guys are doing a great job.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Lauren, and thank you for your service on City Council.
Don't forget where I live.
So Helen, the newcomers also need to be aware that there are other boards that could be at different levels of government. Like you served at the AUMA level as vice president and president, and that's the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association, of which the city of Grande Prairie is a member.
And the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Yeah, and it's really important to establish that liaison with the other levels of government, you know, and to build a relationship with them. And so I think that's really important. And we have both other elected people and staff on the board of the Alberta Urban Municipalities Association. So, and I hope we maintain that because, like I said, it's very, very important.
Yeah, and the one issue I see with having someone spending time with those other levels of government is that means you're going to be away a lot.
Yes.
And if you're away, you're not representing yourself at the city, and people won't see you out at the different events. They won't see you. They'll assume they don't have access to you as a councillor.
But then it's even more important when you come back to report on what you've done and because you're only there because you're representing things that are important to them.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's actually jump to the other elections that are going on, because there's still 20 minutes before the elections close, and there are public school trustees that should probably get a mention at this time. So if you haven't voted for someone, that the screen's going to come up with their names, and you recognize someone and you want to show them your support, you should get out there and vote. So start with the public school district. So we have 14 candidates, and you need to, you can elect.
That's almost a record number.
Oh, it must be. I've never seen the list that long. You elect up to 7 of them. So the people who are running are Timothy Burnham, Joanne Kazikoff, Leslie Craig, Sarah Dennis, Lynn Dreger, Steve Harvell, Brenda Howard, Paulette Carrillo, John Laners, Rob Martin, Joan Nellis, Andre Willette, Lon Ruby, and Charlene Ungstead.
So that's the public school trustee
That's
candidates.
the public schools.
So for the separate school trustee candidates, you will elect 5. There's Jennifer Ann Adam Hessel, Michelle Boyd Bovair, Jason Gunther, Daniel Joden, Michael Olette, Michael Popek, Keith Reddle, Aliska Sylvester Dagan, and Stacy Twerducklib. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. I gave you those hard names on purpose.
Yeah, I noticed that, yeah. Sorry, Stacy, if I slaughtered your name.
I gave Helen those on purpose because, when we were planning this agenda, we were talking about what we were going to talk about. She says, okay, I've got another question to ask you. And she looked really serious. She goes, what are you wearing? And I looked down at myself and I thought, my wife feels like I'm fashionably challenged sometimes. So I thought I was wearing, like my outfit was just fine. But what she meant was, what am I wearing tonight? So that we wouldn't clash. So I had to get you back a little bit for that one, Helen.
There you go, giving me those names. So who's running in the region?
Yeah, we have the County of Grande Prairie is also electing councillors. They have 9 divisions, and between the 9 divisions after the election, they actually vote for their own reeve from within the 9 councillors that win. So in District 1, Harold Bulford, he was acclaimed to this position, and I believe he was acclaimed last time too. So nobody ever votes for Harold; he just gets in. Daryl in Division 2, Daryl Beeston, Don Streeper, and Thomas Tharp. That's just north of the city. Just south of Grande Prairie, Leanne Beaupre and Barry Yanni. They're running in Division 3, and then just west of the city, that's the Dimsdale area, Marissa Heitland, Bernie Smashnook, and Ross Sutherland. And that's all I know for geography, so I'm just going to go by District 5, Kevin Jingles, Robert Hill, Bob Marshall. District 6, Peter Harris, Ashley Hageland, and Kathleen Longson. District 7, Arthur Ament, Linda Waddy. District 8, Karen Roswald was acclaimed again, so no one voted for her as well. And District 9, Dwayne Badry and Corey Beck.
So we have, there is usually more acclaimed in the county. I'm guessing it, or it feels like there usually is more acclaimed than 2, but this time there is 7 elections with only 2 acclaimed in the county.
Yeah, and they're on this ward system. That's why I was naming off the districts. So those elections are really tight.
Yeah.
In the last election, District 4, for example, the winner, I believe, Ross Sutherland won by 23 votes.
Yeah.
So when you think of it that way, that's like 13 people that if they switched their vote, someone else would have won.
Yeah. There was an election, I think it was last election, I'm pretty sure it was, down in central Alberta, 1 vote. And then it did a recount and that flipped who won, and it went on for weeks and weeks and weeks as, yeah, so that was, your vote matters, it's no doubt.
Definitely does. I heard a story of one of the councillors in the county who lost originally by 1 vote, or sorry, by 2 votes. So that automatically triggers a recount when you're that close. So they did the recount, turned out to be a tie. They drew the name out of the hat, and she won through that method. Like that. I know that seems very archaic, but to draw a name out of a hat due to a tie, those situations, they happen. That's why they're written in there. You have to break the tie somehow. Let's move on to MD of Greenview.
Okay, for Greenview, there's 8 wards. Number 1, George Delorme and Winston Delorme. Interesting, 2 of the same last name. 2 is Dale Gervais and Bill Hansen. 3, Frank Bessinger and Leslie Ernest. 4 is Gerald Acton and David Hay. In Area 5, Dale Smith was acclaimed. Area 6, John Banzel and Tom Burton. Area 7, Bill Harder, Roxy Rutt, Warren Wogelmuth. And in 8, Tammy Day, Bill Smith, and Leslie Vandemark. They too elect their organizational meeting.
Moving on, let's take a look outside of the city to the town of Beaver Lodge. Now, in Beaver Lodge, the 6 councillors were elected by acclamation already, so they didn't have anyone running against them. They do have quite a heated mayoral election, though. Roger Loberg and Gary Rycroft. Now, I don't know what the issues are in Beaver Lodge, but I've heard that there has been a lot of heated discussion between the 2 of them. So hopefully things settle down shortly after the election, which is going to be closed in 13 minutes. 6 elected councillors were Cindy Corbett, Terry Dueck, Hugh Graw, Gina Jones, Judy Cocotillo-Beckeris, and Cal Mosher.
Right, and then in Hive, it seems to me Hive there is candidates. There's Nadine Adolph, Bill Guys, Craig Hewitt, Lyle Sipe, Larry Pasaluco, Brian Peterson, and Ed Smith. You can choose 5 of those, and the mayor and deputy mayor will be chosen from those 5.
In the town of Sexsmith, Mayor Claude Legacy was acclaimed, and we have 6 positions that are being elected for. Let's see, we have 10 candidates. So quite an election in Sexsmith. Matthew Barnfield, Bruce Black, Clinton Froelich, Carolyn Gaunt, Ian Penner, Kate Potter, Richard Sekundiak, John Sigalo, Isaac Slaveland, Dennis Stridelinski. So those candidates are up for election. They also put a plebiscite on their ballot, I heard. They have a grain elevator, which the question is whether or not they should be tearing that down. And hopefully, without the election of, without the mayor's race, we'll see if that stirs up a little bit of a more heated election, see if it brings the people out.
You must have heard the famous historic true story of Grande Prairie, and I can't remember the year, maybe 56, 57, where there was actually a plebiscite in Grande Prairie as to whether or not to build a new city hall. And it was turned down. And that night there was a fire and the city hall burned down.
I did hear that story, and I did hear that it was a legitimate burn down because
Yeah.
elections were run by paper ballot back then. So these people would be up for hours and hours on end counting ballots right up to the early morning or early hours of the morning. And people were also allowed to smoke in those buildings. So the combination of cigarette butts and paper everywhere, I can see why that became a fire hazard and the city hall burned down.
So what's happening around the province? We should take a look at that before the...
Oh, we still have Town of Wembley to talk
Oh, I'm
about.
sorry. The mayor was elected by acclamation, as were their 6 councillors: Corey Gunderson, Tyrell Johnson, Nicholas McDonald, Sean McCallum, Mark Moncrief, Anna Underwood. Because they were all elected by acclamation, talking to Mayor Turnmeyer the other evening, they've already had their organizational meeting and other stuff. They're just forging ahead. They see no point in waiting.
Wow, they're way ahead of the curve.
They are.
So yes, let's talk about the provincial landscape.
Well, it's going to be interesting because around Edmonton, there are at least 6, maybe 7 mayors not running for re-election. Absolutely not running for. So, right at the time where they are negotiating that capital region, trying to put that together, you're going to have new mayors, and some of them, like Mayor Kriske from Leduc, played a huge role. John Whaley is the reeve of the rural municipality surrounding that. Camille from Beaumont, Steve Christie from Lacombe, Nolan Krause from Wetaskiwin. I mean, those were all very, very powerful, experienced mayors, and they're going to start those negotiations with all new mayors.
Yeah, I know Nolan Krause through my time on council, but also he mentioned that he used to either live in Grande Prairie or he used to have family in Grande Prairie.
Nolan lived in Grande Prairie for many years and worked for Procter & Gamble. And I know Nolan and I, as candidates, planned many, many Canada Day celebrations. And in fact, one year brought Dave Broadfoot and his troop up here for Canada Day. So yeah, Nolan had a history of being involved wherever he lived.
Mm-hmm. And Nolan's been still fairly vocal during this election campaign. I know he's written a couple of blogs online, one about what you should be looking for in your next mayor, or if you're electing a mayor and councillors. And he also talked about the job and how underappreciated people in public office are, because you take a lot of abuse. The most vocal people are usually the ones that have a little bit of an axe to grind, but aren't the most engaged themselves. They're not out there volunteering for their community. They're not out there, for whatever reason. People get busy, but
always amazed me where council repeatedly got emails or phone calls from the same people to complain about a variety of issues. And so I always waited for nomination day and didn't see their name ever on the ballot.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, those people who have put their name on the ballot, we really need to applaud them, because it's one thing to just be a volunteer in the community, or complaining from behind the anonymity of social media. It's another thing to step up, pay your $100, get your signatures in, and run a campaign. It's brutal work. I'm sure most of the candidates at this time are just breathing, well, shortly they'll be breathing a sigh of relief now that this campaign period is over.
And, you know, speaking of putting up their $100, Edmonton is doing a fairly aggressive initiative. They want to see the rules changed where you have to cost you $1,000. And they feel that would get rid of silly candidates. You know, the same as in Calgary, you got 13 running for mayor in Edmonton and you got 10 running for mayor in Calgary. So those will be interesting races to follow.
Yeah, I actually had a guy that worked for me, a young man, this was years ago, who ran for mayor. And he did it because his friends challenged him to do it. He never really expected that he'd have a chance to win, but he has bragging rights. He can say, I ran for mayor one year in the Grande Prairie election. He got a small percentage of the votes. He did draw out a lot of the younger voters. I think he made 10%. Now, the 10% rule in provincial and federal politics means that you get all your election campaigning money back. For municipal elections, there's no such rule for that. Like in my mind, municipal candidates, they really they get the raw end of the deal there. You basically have to try to fundraise or self-fund a campaign. It can be fairly expensive. There's no tax breaks for anyone who contributes to your campaign. And you still have to keep a full accounting of any donated amounts over $100. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is quite onerous on.
Yeah, and it's such an unfair system. You know, provincially or federally, you contribute to a political campaign. You can, on your income tax, claim back, I think, 75% of that. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't work that way in municipal elections.
Right. And, you know, we wonder why our voter turnout is so low when we're in the 20% range. Yeah. It always seems strange for me because in these civic elections, you're voting for people who will have the largest impact on your day-to-day life.
Oh, I believe that so much, Dan.
Yeah, and when you look at the provincial and federal level, the numbers seem to increase by at least another 10 to 15% as you go up in government, but they have the least impact on your life.
Well, and I guess, you know, and to really underwrite that, it was interesting to me. A few days ago, we were talking, and I made the comment that the day we voted, Grande Prairie Council voted to bring in the transit system, the discussion went on all day. And when we finally voted about 6:30 at night, the vote was 5-4 to implement the transit system. And then you said, wow, I have to tell you, when that came in, it changed my life. So you might want to.
Yeah, I remember when that came in. It was the 80s, and I was pretty young. My mom and dad, we only had one vehicle in our house. So when transit was finally implemented in the city of Grande Prairie, it all of a sudden gave us freedom to travel. My mom could do shopping during the day on her own. She could drag us around anywhere. As I got older, I wanted to hang out with my friends. And rather than just hanging out at the neighborhoods, I could jump on a bus and I could go to the Prairie Mall, or I could go to the Town Center Mall. I could go, it was freedom, it was life-changing. So that was an excellent decision by City Council at that time. And to believe it was one vote away from being defeated.
Amazing. Is it the same as the library? Now, just recently, the library did away with your fees. The fees to join the library, which I always thought was extremely reasonable at $7 a year, but they did away with any fees, and it's just incredible the increase in people who signed up to join the library. So it's really heartwarming.
Yeah, and you know, we were new to Grande Prairie. My family moved here in 1972. We have 4 generations of my family that have lived in Grande Prairie, but we're all first generation, which is really strange. My great-grandfather settled here. He brought my dad over here. I was already born at that time, so I wasn't born in Grande Prairie. And we brought my grandfather over. And the one commonality between all of us, because I didn't get a really good chance to know my grandparents, is we all spent time in the public library. And I remember that because the public library had Chinese books. And that's what my parents and great-grandparents needed. They needed a way to connect with their community, and that was the only place they could find foreign material. So,
Yeah, I mean, these services, you know, they're, and all of the recreation facilities. I mean, you know them as a counselor, you know going in, they're never going to be self-supporting, that the city will have to subsidize them. But they're all about providing the quality of life for your citizens.
yes, absolutely. Accessibility to information, accessibility to recreational facilities, those are so important.
Well, and I remember when then Mayor Dwight Logan determined that we should start recycling. And what he found was that we just didn't have the volumes to recycle. So he came to me and said, make it happen. So we looked around and we put together 37 municipalities. And it was the first time, and then Environment Minister Ralph Klein said, it was the first time in history that 37 municipalities, including a city, a county, towns, villages, IDs, and MDs, had joined together. So we did coordinated sweeps to pick up the recycling, and then we had the volumes. And you know, the interesting thing, and I would tell you a funny story. It might be kind of off topic, but a small town in northeastern Alberta, I won't say which one, but a lady from Environmental Protection and I did a swing through there to convince them to start recycling. And I said to the mayor, "If you ever thought about doing any recycling?" And he said, "Oh yeah, we used to have a bin down on Main Street where people could bring their newspapers, but we had to take it away." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because people kept filling it up too fast." I swear that's a true story, I swear. And so, you know, wow. Getting people, and what we did, and we found cost analysis, you either recycle or you build a new landfill a lot cheaper, and to build a new landfill is like horrendous amount of money. Plus, the farther out you have to build that landfill, the more expensive it is to service it. And then, of course, you run into the giant NIMBY factor, not in my backyard. Yeah. So, you know, programs like recycling, you know, it's not a straight line, but the cost savings is huge.
Yeah, I believe it. And I'm hoping that, you know, there aren't many other examples of communities that fall victim to their own success. You know, to imagine getting rid of recycling because it became too successful in your community.
It's amazing, isn't it? I often think, you know, when I look outside at my blue bag, or I take my blue bag out, you know, it doesn't seem that long ago that we didn't have that luxury. Mm-hmm. You know, so pretty cool. You know, well, that is.
Time moves by pretty quickly. And speaking about time moving quickly, it's 8:02 now, which means that polls have officially closed. They've been closed for a couple of minutes. Hopefully everyone who wanted to vote had a chance to do so. There were 2 advanced polls on the 2 weekends leading up to the election.
Yep.
And I believe, if I'm correct, we have those results. The other results will be coming in relatively quickly. Like that, I believe that with the new electronic system, all they need to do is they go on a little flash memory drive, and does someone drive them down to City Hall, and they just plug them in and they get tabulated really quickly. So whether or not they have that, we can talk about the polling numbers. In 2013 advanced polls, I have the numbers in front of me here. We had 930 people come out and advance vote. In 2010, advance votes were 787. Out of the total, about 9,000 people came out to vote in both those elections.
So do we know what we have now?
I don't know the exact number, but I know it was just north of 1,200 votes. So if that's any indication, we're looking at a 30% increase in the number of voters that at least came out to the advance polls.
From 900 to 1,200?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that trend continued on to Election Day. You know, we have, I think it was 13 polling stations across the city, and let's hope that we had more people. If we saw a 30% increase overall, that would be an awesome number. I don't think we've ever cracked 10,000 voters in the city of Grande Prairie.
Yeah, that would be very cool. So, and then the new people that are going to be elected in the next few minutes, then a week from today at 6:30 in these council chambers, they will be sworn in. And they're all, it's open gallery, and their family will be invited to come down. It's really cute to see the little kids watching, you know, and their parents and grandparents get sworn in because they get pretty excited.
Right, and that's also the organizational meeting at the same time.
Absolutely, yeah.
So once they're sworn in, they have their first real quick meeting, their chance to make their first motions as councillors.
Yeah.
And really all that does is it kind of sets the standing committees and the other, and the council
And in the
meeting
meantime, this
schedule.
week coming up, the mayor will meet with all of them to say, what do you have an interest in? Is it the airport? Is it, you know, the Grand Spirit Foundation, the library, the museum, you know, what do you have an interest in? And then he's got to try to juggle that to make sure that people get, you know, in an area that they have some expertise and fit.
Right, and you know, Lauren did talk about the fact that, you know, his time commitment was, you know, that 20 to 25 hour per week commitment. One thing that he didn't get a chance to talk about was the range of hours. You know, there are going to be some weeks where you're hardly doing anything. Maybe you only have 5 hours worth of duties. There are some weeks when you could be north of 50 hours. So, you know, following this election, one of the biggest jobs that these new councillors are going to have is budget deliberations. They're going to be setting, now, there's 1 year overlap on the budget, right? So the previous council had set this year's budget, and there's going to be some tweaks. So you'll be looking at some new capital project requests. But the operational budget is pretty much set for this year. Now, council can do anything. They can overturn that, but it's so that the new people who are just getting their feet wet, they aren't finding that they're all of a sudden drowning in paperwork. The budget binder is big enough just for these little mini budget sessions. Never mind the 4-year operational budget, which is, you know, a couple of binders that are 2 inches thick.
I know.
Yeah. Those were good times. I loved looking through those binders, actually. And then following that, strategic planning. When does that take place, Helen?
That usually takes place in January. And we were fortunate last year because the new city manager hadn't actually started yet, but he didn't want to miss the strategic planning. So he came to our strategic planning meeting in early January. So that was, you know, and that's invaluable, you know, that for him to take part in that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, as I started saying, the mayor will be meeting with the elected people this week, and they'll have a busy week, even though they might have thought tonight it was all over. Yeah. It's like the song, "It's Only Just Begun."
Right, yeah. And do you remember many council meetings that weren't very busy? I got, you know.
No, and I learned very quickly never to walk in the door saying, "Gee, it looks like a real light agenda tonight," because that was when you were here till 10:30.
That's right, yeah, I remember those ones.
You could never know what.
Definitely don't make plans right after council.
No, you just never know what was, you know, and what would become really contentious.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I really noticed too is around the committee meetings. When we were talking about...
Sorry, go ahead.
Pardon. When we were talking about how busy council gets, I tried having several different careers throughout my time on council, and I started off with my own IT business. I'd always planned to do a transition into something else, but I found that council made me extremely busy, and I couldn't really plan any meetings at least an hour before a committee meeting, because you never know if someone wants to drag that meeting out longer, and now you're rushing them to try to get out. And you can almost guarantee that those small agendas were the ones where someone thought, well, the council's got a light agenda, let's throw this extra topic in there. And you ended up, instead of having a half-hour meeting, you had a 2-hour meeting. So it made it very difficult to balance and juggle my other career with a council life.
Yep, yeah, you really couldn't predict how long you were going to be there, and so it, and it was always, it didn't lag. Very, very few counselors talked just to hear their own voice. They were always offering opinions, ideas, suggestions. So
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why people also started attending the other committee meetings too. Not only just because Lauren was doing it, because once you started sitting in on those meetings, you realized that you miss out on a lot of conversation.
a lot of information.
Yes,
Yeah.
Information that's really important in developing the context behind some of the motions that eventually come to council, and then you have to debate on them again at the council level.
Yes. Yeah. And that's,
So one of the things that I noticed in the last few days was there's a gentleman, I won't name any names, but on Facebook he put out an election poll just to see if we could get some early results of how at least the people on social media felt. And there was a little bit of debate going back and forth online as to whether or not people felt that was the right thing to do. Should you be releasing poll results prior to an election when people can still vote and maybe change the outcome of that? So I don't know what you think about that, Helen. Like, it happens in the US all the time.
yeah, I'm not a big fan of polls.
Yeah, I don't find them extremely accurate.
No, and that's, they can, I took statistics in college, and when I found you can make them say whatever you want them to say. So I kind of feel polls are like that. It certainly the result of the poll is very reflective of how you phrase a question.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I remember the question for Quebec when they were talking about separating and becoming a sovereign nation of their own. The question was worded in a very tricky way that you would almost think that, you believe that Quebec should be a sovereign nation. Well, I don't know what that means, but it sounds like, yes, I'm supportive of Quebec. And what that meant was Quebec wants, if you voted yes there, it meant that you wanted to separate from the rest of Canada. So, the wording makes a big difference.
Oh, very, very much so. So that's why I'm always skeptical of them.
Yeah, the other thing with online polls that I find is absolutely anyone has the opportunity to vote. So the problem with that is you're not taking geographic location in mind.
Yes.
In a normal election, you can confine them to the city of Grande Prairie, but online, you could live in Tuktoyaktuk and vote. The other thing that I really don't like about these online polls is, if these online polls were accurate in predicting outcome, I never would have got elected. I showed up pretty low on the 2007 poll prior to getting elected.
Really?
Yeah, someone told me that I was right on the bubble. Now, I never did see the poll online myself, so if I didn't see it, neither did any of the people that follow me or that I have befriended on Facebook. Yeah, so we're still waiting to get results in. We're
I'm
hoping that people
surprised we haven't got results by now.
Yeah, not a single polling station yet. No, they're working on it though. This is going to definitely be a really tight election, though. I was looking at my prediction list, and I usually try to put one together. And I don't want to really share the results of that because I don't want to offend anyone, but I couldn't get past number 6. Yeah. Like, it's the further down in the list that you go, the more unknown
Yeah.
it becomes.
Yeah, there were a lot of new faces, I will say, in that lineup of candidates.
Yeah, I was very impressed by the lineup of candidates. I don't know about you, but I felt like really there were a lot of potentially good candidates that could have filled a role on city council and done a fairly decent job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and as I mentioned before, you've got the diversity, you've got all sectors represented. That's very definitely. I wonder if, do we know if the city manager is around?
It would be interesting to get
I
his
would love
perspective
to have
on
him.
how the election.
It's got to be stressful for staff as they sit here now, knowing that by morning, who they take direction from is unknown. So, you know.
I know, and this is really the first year that I absolutely have no idea what that makeup of council is going to be. Like, I have a good idea of who the core people on council are going to be,
Yeah.
but I couldn't give you all the names.
No,
I started collecting some really interesting data, though. What I was doing was I was looking at everyone's Facebook profiles, because everyone seems to have a vote for whoever for council. And I was tracking the number of people that were either following or liking their site. So the higher the number of followers, I assume that those people would translate into getting more votes.
Okay.
And the lower the number, so on. And there definitely was a trend, but I couldn't tell you for sure because there were so many that were within a dozen people. So that's how tight I think the election's going to be.
Yeah, sort of.
We
got some results.
We do have some results.
No.
Oh,
Yes,
in 1 minute.
now. We do have votes.
Okay.
So we have Bill Given at 914, Dick Bailey at 274, and Theodore Nikiforuk at 45. So a very strong start for the incumbent mayor, Bill Given.
Yes, and that was only at the advanced poll, so that's 1 out of 15 polls that are reported.
Yeah.
There's still a long election to go, but if that's an indication of where the voters are going to be, I think we know what the story is. Now, if we assume that we're going to get somewhere between 10 and 12,000
Here we are.
votes-
Here's some people.
Here we go.
Go ahead. So we're seeing the top of the poll is Chris Thiessen, Eunice Friesen, Jackie Clayton, Wade Pilotte, Dylan Bressy, Clyde Blackburn, Kevin O'Toole, Yad Minhouse, John Kriska, Cheryl Montgomery, Kevin McLean, Shannon Dunfield, John Crokin, Cam White, Timothy Nesbitt, Tyler Savard, Sidney Fletcher, Morgan Surd, and Mike Wolfell.
Wow.
So the top.
Yeah, the top 8 cut off right between Yad Minhas and John Kriska. Like I said, it's going to be really tight right in that area. Let's see.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
100 votes.
So you've got,
Well, it's so tight to call. Like,
yeah.
at this point.
You got 61
200.
votes separating the 1 and 8th and 9th place.
Mm-hmm.
And look at 6th and 7th, 7th and 8th. 1 vote separates them.
Yeah, and and for the advanced polls, I can see that incumbents would typically have an advantage at that point.
Yeah.
These are people who, the voters that come out, they're fairly experienced voters. They know that if you want to beat the crowds at the polling stations, that you want to get out there early or, get out on an earlier day.
That's not reflected here. Your theory isn't reflected in the numbers we're seeing.
It's fairly close. We do have, all our incumbents in the top 8, don't we?
No, Kevin McLean is.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Number 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chris Thiessen, sitting in first place.
Yeah, and Chris has been very, very popular. He's just full of energy, and I know I've said it before, but You know, when he was first elected, I looked and went, oh, with his loud suits, and it didn't take very long to realize how very intelligent and hardworking he is. And he just is a truly good person who works hard. So that seemed to translate to the community.
Well, he certainly has a lot of energy, and you know, in terms of being a likable candidate and a likable person, I would give it to him. You know, every time, every time I saw him, he was always greeting you with a hug.
Yeah. Yes, Chris loves to hug. If he comes in tonight, you will get a hug, trust me.
And then looking at second place, Eunice Friesen.
Yeah, Eunice has a very, very strong community background. She was on the college board, she's on the chamber board, she's on the provincial AISH board. And I feel she's going to have to make some decisions about those. She just simply won't have the time.
Yes, absolutely. Things get busy, you're going to have to prioritize. Same with Jackie Clayton. She was on several boards before she ended up on council. I don't know if she still is or not, but she's coming in third place, solid third.
Yeah.
And Wade Palat, again, on the chamber board. He's a home builder, very much, and a business owner. He's part owner of the Red Rock.
Here we have the voting station 7. Go ahead.
Oh, voting station 6, Army, Navy, Air Force Club. That's the second poll. Bill Given, 199 votes. Dick Bailey, 113. Theodore Nikiforuk, 20. And Roni Rajput, 4. And Roni Rajput was the candidate that was supposed to be scratched off the ballot, but they ended up printing them before they ended up disqualifying him from the race. So, 15 votes altogether for being a disqualified candidate, not too bad. But clear winner so far, Bill Given, 1,113 votes in first place. Dick Bailey, 387 in second place. Theodore Nikiforuk, 65 votes in third place. And now our voting station 6, here's the results for the councillors. Chris Thiessen, 203, Eunice Friesen, 163. I don't think I need to read them all because they're just going to get tabulated up anyway.
You see, Kevin O'Toole moved up a spot.
It's getting tighter and tighter from third to probably 7th place. Yeah, 6th place for sure. And again, look how tight it's getting from 7, 8, 9, 10. You're looking at 100 vote spread, 11th even.
And
so it's still anybody's game. 2 votes out of 15. In the last election, about 3,400 votes would have got you elected. So we've still got a ways to go. I think in this one, you're probably going to need 4,000, probably, if we're looking at the trend continue.
Yeah, less than 100 votes, to not make the cut.
Well, wish we could go back to that previous slide because I had the Army, Navy, Air Force Club only had 283 turnout at the last election. I didn't see the total for this one.
And here we have some more votes. Poll 3, Bill Given, and that's Decoy Armories. Bill Given, 453. Dick Bailey, 127. Theodore Nikiforuk, 28. And for combined scores, Bill, 1566. Dick Bailey, 514. Theodore Nikiforuk, 93. That's 3 out of 15 polls.
Okay, again, Decoy Armories, voting station 8. You can see the trend pretty much continues. Chris and Eunice at the top, followed by Clyde, Dylan, Jackie. Those ones are kind of switching around. Kevin O'Toole still solid at about 6th, 7th place. Cheryl Montgomery's moving up.
Yeah,
and Wade Palat is a little bit lower in the list. But let's see here, total votes. 3,
Eunice
5.
has moved up in first place in that poll ahead of Chris Thiessen. 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm trying to. And now we have the Salvation Army Church. Again, Chris Thiessen topping that poll, followed by Eunice Friesen, and Jackie Clayton in third. 2, 3, 4. Kevin O'Toole has climbed up to fifth. Wade Pilat is back there. And we'll wait for the amalgamated total.
Yes.
Okay, here we have the amalgamated total. 4 out of 15 polls shows Chris Thiessen ahead, Eunice Friesen, Jackie Clayton, Clyde Blackburn, Dylan Bressy, Wade Pilat, Kevin O'Toole, Yadmin House.
Wow, and you really do see numbers starting to tighten up there with 1,000 to 1,195. That's from third to seventh place, and then the top two seem to be running away with it.
Yeah.
So as we wait for other results to come in, we have the City of Grande Prairie City Manager, Bob Nicolay, has joined us. So Bob, we were talking earlier about how, or what the reaction of staff might be on the day of the election, knowing that tomorrow all the major decisions are going to be made by a whole new set of people. What's the sentiment out there?
It is a very interesting time in local government when an election occurs like this. Democracy is how the people control government. We are the government that are controlled by the people, and they elect their representatives through exactly this process. It is a mood of excitement and anticipation. Even on the eve of the election, in the back room behind us, there is a beehive of activity right now with people making sure that everything is done properly and that the election goes off without a hitch. It's one of the things that the local government has tried to do over the years, certainly before I came along, is to build systems that are sufficiently robust that regardless of what the council might consider to be the appropriate strategy, the organization can keep pace, the organization can move in the direction that the community wants them to move. So it's an optimistic anticipation that occurs.
That's great to hear.
Let me ask you a rhetorical question. A municipality down central Alberta, I won't tell you which one, had a horrible time last year. They had a councillor who was fairly much out of control, and in a public meeting would call staff liars, this type of thing. So how would you have handled that, Bob?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Helen, and I hope I never have to answer it in anything other than a rhetorical sense. It's always a very interesting separation that occurs between the elected representatives of a community and the people that those representatives put in place to run the organization. It needs to be a respectful dialogue that occurs between them. Just like any situation, if and when that goes off the rails and we end up with a disrespectful dialogue or something that isn't constructive, we need to find a forum in which we can sort that out and come up with a new direction. I personally would look to the mayor. The mayor is the leader of council, and while he or she is first amongst equals, they are in that position with the intention of leading the council. So that's where I would look to try to sort it out.
Okay, thank you.
That's great. So I'm getting the wave that we have a bunch more polling stations that have come in, and I know that there's some anxious candidates out there looking for the results. So where are we? Polling station 6, Holy Cross, 452 to Bill Gibbon, 171 to Dick Bailey, and then 41 to Theodore Nikiforuk. Polling station 7, Montrose School. Again, Bill Gibbon, 412, Dick Bailey, 147, and Theodore Nikiforuk, 19 votes.
Elks Hall. Bill Gibbon, 352. Dick Bailey, 117. Theodore Nikiforuk, 20.
Our grand totals here. Bill Gibbon still in first place at 3,046 votes. Dick Bailey in second place at 1,019. And Theodore Nikiforuk at 192 votes. That's with 7 of the 15 polling stations reported. Let's see where our councillors are sitting. Eunice Friesen has moved, or she's got The most number of votes at the Holy Cross polling station, 409 votes. Chris Thiessen, Jackie Clayton, Dylan Bressy, Clyde Blackburn, Wade Palat, Kevin O'Toole, Kevin McLean, Cheryl Montgomery, John Kriska, Yad Minhas, John Crokin, Shannon Dunfield, then Cam White, Timothy Nesbitt, Tyler Savard, Sidney Fletcher, Mike Wolfel, and Morgan Seward. Moving on to the next polling station, Montrose Junior High. Much of the same type of trend. Eunice Friesen, Chris Thiessen, Jackie Clayton, followed by Clyde Blackburn, Dylan Bressy, Wade Palat, Kevin O'Toole, Cheryl Montgomery. Those are the top 8, and those are the people that have garnered the most number of votes at that station. Let's see if we have any rolling totals here. Well, there's the story, Helen. It hasn't changed much. I think at the bottom we're going to see we've seen some names flip around a little bit, but the cutoff is still fairly tight. Anything can happen in the next 8 polling stations. Chris Thiessen, Eunice Friesen still running away with it.
We're not seeing much change in the top 4. They sometimes flip around, but the top 4 have been the top 4 all the way along.
Mm-hmm. And you look at the spread there between Dylan Bressy and Clyde Blackburn in 4th and 5th place. 6 votes separate the two of them.
Yeah.
From Wade Palat up, so the 7th position up, there's 317 votes. That's quite a margin. And I have noticed the general trend that we are anywhere from 10 to 20% above the numbers of the previous election. So advance vote was about 30% higher, and now these polling stations are anywhere from 10 to 20% higher.
There we have People's Church coming in. Bill Given, 318. Dick Bailey, 145. Theodore Nikiforuk, 17. And from the People's Church, there we have Chris Thiessen, Eunice Friesen, Dylan Bressy, Jackie Clayton. Dylan Bressy has moved ahead of Jackie Clayton at this poll. Kevin O'Toole, Wade Palat, Clyde Blackburn, Yad Minhas, John Kriska, Kevin McLean. So and the overall results, Jackie in overall results has moved back into 3rd place.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to see these results. I'm noticing that not everyone who has voted for a mayoral candidate has voted for at least not for every one of these councillor candidates. For example, there was almost 500 votes coming out of People's Church, and the highest number was roughly around 300 going to Chris Thiessen. So, the distribution of votes, people are being very strategic with how they vote. Oh, polling station 9, Alexander Forbes School. Bill Given, 346, Dick Bailey, 166, and Theodore Nikiforuk, 34 votes.
It's pretty much a runaway for the incumbent Mayor Given.
Yes, I would say so.
And Bill winning this election means that he has tied the record set by Mayor George Repka in length of time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So 3,710 votes. I think we said, he's going to need somewhere between 5 and 600 or 5 and 6,000 votes before we can call it officially, but judging from the way these trends are going, we're going to know early that whether or not we're going to have incumbent Mayor Bill Given as our mayor of Grande Prairie.
Yeah.
Okay, so the results for Alexander Forbes School coming in again for the councillors. Eunice Friesen at the top, Chris Thiessen, Jackie Clayton, Clyde Blackburn, Kevin O'Toole, Wade Palat, Dylan Bressy, and Yad Minhas. Oh, Mother Teresa School as well. Chris Thiessen, Eunice Friesen, Dylan Bressy, Jackie Clayton, Wade Palat, John Kriska, Kevin O'Toole, Clyde Blackburn, and Yad Minhas. Oh, Clyde Blackburn is right where the cutoff is, I guess. Yeah, you're right. There isn't much shifting between the top 4 or 5 candidates.
Dylan Bressy has all of a sudden slipped in there, but Thiessen, Friesen, and Clayton followed by Blackburn, and then Bressie kind of slid in there a couple of polls ago.
So it looks like if these trends continue, we're going to end up seeing 3 incumbents to keep their seats. So again, Friesen, Thiessen, Clayton, Bressie, Blackburn, Pillot, O'Toole, and Minhas at Charles Spencer High School. And, only 114 votes separates 8th and 9th place. So I wouldn't count out John Kriska at this point. And Kevin McLean, he's slowly creeping up as well. He's moved from 11th to 12th place up to 10th overall. Like we said, the top 5 aren't really shifting.
130 votes there.
Yeah. Pretty safe to say Chris Thiessen's won himself a seat at this point. Same with Eunice Friesen.
I would suggest the top 4 are fairly.
Yeah, I think these trends typically, they don't alter too much from one station to the next. But at the bottom, every vote is going to count.
Absolutely.
Holy Cross School, voting station 5.
Maud
Clifford. This is the 12th out of 15 polls, so we're getting close to the end of our results here. Again, top 5, 6, top 6 really haven't changed. 7th is Yad Minhas. Then we have O'Toole, Kriska, McLean, Montgomery, all with fairly strong showings. And again, same kind of trend that we've been seeing all night long, Helen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Given looks like he's got the majority by 2-to-1 majority. And the overall results again, top 6. Clyde Blackburn and Wade Pillot seem to be switching places, but I think they're pretty much defining our top 6 candidates. Kevin O'Toole, he's almost got a 500 vote spread between him and Yad Minhas now. So unless something really strange happens in the next 3 polls, I don't think that I think the top 7 are pretty secure. It's who's going to win that 8th place.
Yes, and that usually is what it boils down to. It changes quite.
Mm-hmm. Now, you got to really feel for some of the candidates out there. They've done some tremendous work. They've done some door knocking. They've been out at events, shaking hands, meeting people, talking to as many people as they possibly can, engaging the media, engaging social media. There's just so much work involved in a campaign, and it's sad to say that people are going to walk home or they're going to go home a little disappointed tonight. But I think the city of Grande Prairie is the big winner here because we had a chance to exercise our democratic rights.
Oh, here's school trustees. In first place, we have Andre Ouellette, followed by John Lainers, Paulette Carrillo, Lynn Dreger, Rob Martin, Joe Nellis, and Leslie Craig. As of the top 5 end at Rob Martin. Is it 7, I think? 7?
7.
Mm-hmm. 7. Okay, so the top 7 are those ones I just named off.
Right, and that's the accumulation after the 12 polls as well, 12 out of 15.
And then the separate ones, go ahead.
Yeah, we have Michael Ouellette in first place, then Michelle Boisvert, Adam Hessel, Sylvester Deegan, or Aleska, Sylvester Deegan, Michael Popek. Those are the top 5, and it's a tight race there. Stacy, I can't get that name. Tredoclib is in 6th place, and less than only 15 votes separate her and Michael Popek. So this is going to go back and forth for a little bit.
And I predicted today that with the electronic voting, we should be done not long after 8:30, and it looks like I was going to be accurate.
Yeah, I imagine some phone calls are being made right now.
To ask people to come down and talk to us?
Yes, and we're going to be doing the interviews with the successful candidates after the final results are in, so we only have 3 more polling stations to wait out. But at this point, it's quite clear Bill Given is going to be the mayor of Grande Prairie for another 4 years. He's won his majority vote. Let's see the results again. Out of 12 stations, we have 5,049 votes for Bill Given, Dick Bailey, 2,002, and Theodore Nikiforuk, 311. And I can't say I'm too surprised, Helen, by these results. One thing that I did note as I was looking outside at all the pictures of previous councils since the 1930s, they have pictures of them all. I've noticed that in Grande Prairie's history, they've never elected a mayor that hasn't first sat on council.
And I am a very firm believer, looking for a cough drop. I'm a very firm believer that the Municipal Government Act needs to be amended so that you cannot run as mayor unless you have served a term on council. It's just a matter of getting used to the systems, how things work, that type of thing. I've believed that for a long time.
Yeah, it's a very rare situation when that would happen. I know it does happen in smaller communities, but it could happen in a large election too. Look at, of all people, to use an example, President Trump came out of nowhere, never in politics before, ended up winning an election that the average person the average person around the world didn't think that could ever happen. Yeah. Oh, we do have more results coming up.
These are just institutional.
Okay, so the institutional vote, Bill Given again, 211 votes, Dick Bailey, 31, and Theodore Nikiforuk, 9 votes. Institutional would be the seniors' lodges.
Ah.
And who do they vote for?
John Crokin.
John Crokin. Followed by Eunice Friesen, Clyde Blackburn, Kevin O'Toole, Kevin McLean, Chris Thiessen, Cheryl Montgomery, and Jackie Clayton to round off your top 8. We haven't seen any shift in the results, though. The rankings are still exactly the same as where they were before.
I think Kevin McLean moved ahead of John Kriska.
He did. Top 8 haven't really shifted. Yeah. I don't think the top 8 have shifted position. I could be mistaken. If you're one of those candidates really eyeballing your position, you're going to call me a liar. But it's hard to keep track when we see these results coming in all the time. But I'm pretty sure these top positions are pretty much the same. Eunice Friesen and Chris Thiessen actually are really tight up at the top now. 13 votes separate them.
Yeah. There's quite a jump between them and Jackie Clayton.
Mm-hmm.
They're about 800 votes, roughly.
So that is quite a jump.
Huh?
Yeah, for the top 2. So the people have spoken. They know who their favorites are.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really what it means, but it just means that people are voting strategically for sure. Let's take a look closer to the bottom. What are the results there? 24-53 for Kevin McLean, 24-18 for John Kriska, Cheryl Montgomery, 23-75. So, fairly tight pack there. A couple hundred votes separate them from Yad Minhas for 8th position. And I don't know where the last 2 polls are, but anything happened.
Yeah. 100 votes between Cheryl Montgomery and Yad Minhas.
Mm-hmm. And
107.
Yeah.
So that's pretty tight. And then again, there's a big jump between Yad Minhas and Kevin O'Toole.
There is. There's like 570 votes, something like that. But only 119 between Yad Minhas and Kevin McLean. Yeah. So that was 8th and 9th place. So 119 votes, you can get that at the last 2 polling stations, which still need to be reported yet.
Wonder if we've heard anything from Edmonton and those places.
Yeah, those would be really interesting. I'd like to see whether or not, especially the mayoralty race.
Yeah.
Don Iveson being challenged by 12 other candidates, and Naheed Nenshi being challenged.
Nenshi, the rumor on the
9.
street down there was that Nenshi was in trouble.
Wow. So if anyone has those results out here, please feel free to leak them to us.
Edmonton election. 2017 election results.
And we'll see whether or not these last two stations, they're probably a little further out of town and or at the edges of the city, and they need to still come in. I know if you're anywhere on that top 6, I believe I can make a general call. You should make your way down to City Hall so we can ask you a few questions, see how you're feeling, and
What are you seeing there? It says Mayor City.
then you can get back to your partying after we're done with you. So no results yet from.
Just a minute, there's something from. I don't see.
No, nothing.
Oh, no
All,
numbers
we're
yet.
all at 0 right now for
Oh,
Edmonton.
okay.
618,000 eligible voters.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Anything from the county yet?
No.
No.
No, we've been told that the county still uses paper ballots and they count by hand, so they'll be up
Is
till
that rigged?
they'll be up till midnight, something like that, counting ballots.
Oh dear. Oh, let's see what Calgary has happening. Word on the street down in Calgary, I was down there, was quite prevalent too, is that Nenshi could be in trouble.
666,000 eligible voters.
But they're all at 0 too.
Oh, what's
Oh,
this?
there's Nat. She'd had 57 or something.
Mayor from,
Oh, that's just from that poll. He's slightly ahead. Who's that now? A second? Oh, Bill Smith. Okay.
yeah. The two runaways in Calgary, Naheed Nenshi and Bill Smith, those were the two main candidates anyway.
Yeah.
So it's
234.
showing Nenshi ahead by a really slim margin. So
Yeah.
there's only a couple of stations that have reported as of now.
Huh.
1 of 32.
And here we are
So-
back at vote station 2. 14 out of 15 with Chris Thiessen ahead.
Yeah.
Kevin O'Toole is, well, that's the polling station. That's not an amalgamated. Okay.
Yeah. Friesen, O'Toole, Bressie, Blackburn, Pilat. Oh, something happened here. Oh, this is poll number 14 now. This is amalgamated. Sorry. 14 out of 15 polls reported. Thiessen has now switched places with Friesen, then Clayton, Bressie, Blackburn, Pilat, O'Toole, and Minhas. And 100 votes between Minhas and McLean. And then Kriska, Montgomery, Dunfield, and Crokin.
The last poll will tell the tale.
Yes, but Bill Given, get yourself over to City Hall because I'm going to call it. Bill Given is our winner. With only one more poll to report, it's very unlikely we're going to see a swing in any of these results here. 5669 votes for Bill, Dick Bailey, 2,223 votes, and Theodore Nikiforuk, 350 votes. Wow, we do also have results for public school trustees. An updated list here.
Yes, we're seeing Andre Olette in first place, John Laners, Paulette Carrillo, Lynn Dreger, Rob Martin, Joe Nellis, and Leslie Craig are the top 7 at this point. But you're looking only at, 40 out of 50 being polls, but there's 66 votes separating the 7th and 8th place.
And separate school. We have Michael Ouellette, Michelle Beauvert, Jennifer Adam Hessel, Alyeska Sylvester Deegan, Michael Popek, Stacy Twardoklev. Oh, you're right. I only need to go for 5. But only 30 votes separate Michael Popek and Stacy Twardoklev.
Yeah.
So we could still see some activity there at the last polling station. Well, there must be some happy candidates out there. They know exactly where they stand. There's a few that are just waiting for that last result to see if maybe something has shifted. But I think we're pretty safe to say those top 7 are definitely on our city council. And we have one more polling station before we know whether or not 100 extra votes have swung in a different direction.
Absolutely.
So if you are at one of the parties for Chris Thiessen, Eunice Friesen, Jackie Clayton, Dylan Bressy, Clyde Blackburn, Wade Palat, or Kevin O'Toole, spirits must be pretty high right now. If you're sitting at Yad Minhas and Kevin McLean's, you must be sitting on pins and needles right now because anything can happen. I've seen the election switch at the last second on a couple of these stations.
Isn't this interesting? No polls at Ecole Nouvelle Frontier.
No information yet.
What? What is nobody
Oh,
know?
Ecole Nouvelle Frontier is the last polling station. We're waiting for the results.
Oh, we're waiting for them. Okay.
They are slowly downloading. I don't know how they're entering the results. But we know the results are coming soon. So I wonder, do we have a total on the total number or what the voter turnout has been up to now, or will we have that information? I'd say it's definitely up. So while we're waiting, Helen, I guess we do have one of the councillors who is sitting in 7th place right now. I think it's probably safe to interview him, sitting out in our gallery.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Kevin
think he does
O'Toole,
have a bit
how
of
you
a-
feeling today? Why don't you join us?
Okay, here, what do we got here? For the mayor of the city of Edmonton, Calgary.
Oh, Don Iveson by a huge margin. 72.9% of the voters have decided to vote for Don Iveson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Don
They vote
Koziak
me.
is the next closest, but 1,116 votes. Yeah,
Wow.
okay. And we do have the last polling station results rolling in. Here we go. Eunice Friesen, Chris Thiessen, Dylan Bressy, Jackie Clayton, Wade Palat, Kevin O'Toole, Clyde Blackburn, John Kriska, Shannon Dunfield, and Yad Minhas. So let's see the cumulative totals. Not enough. Wow. So the only one, I was looking at the bottom there, Yad Minhas has been re-elected to City Council. So joining us here today is incumbent councillor and re-elected councillor Kevin O'Toole. Kevin, congratulations.
Thank you very much. I feel pretty warm actually right now.
So are you glad the election's over?
Yeah, I really am. On September 22nd, I woke up with Bell's palsy. I didn't know what the heck was going on, and I'm not making up excuses. It's just that the medication that I was on to fight this really drove a lot of energy out of me, and I just couldn't do what I wanted to do. So.
Yeah.
What do you think the electorate, the community saw in you that caused them to re-elect you?
Well, I've been on council for 7 years, and I've really supported the community in many different ways, and I'm kind of riding on those shirt tails to get me through this election. So I have a lot of faith in the community, and there's good people here, there's good organizations, and I just thank all the people that did vote for me very much.
So you're gonna have 5 new people to work with. What do you think of that?
Oh, wow. I don't know if they're going to train me or I'm going to have to train them. No, I'm looking forward. There's some good people out there, and I'm very honored to be on that same council as the ones that got elected for sure. There's some people with past experience on there, and there's some people there that are, let's say they're well known in the community, and it's not somebody that just snuck up. These people have all had some experience. in many different factors.
Right. So Kevin, you were known as one of the councillors that attended everything, like absolutely everything. You think you still have it in you for one more term to put out that kind of energy and that kind of time commitment?
Yeah, I'm also getting older every year too. So, I do like to participate in all the events that I can. I do have a small business as well, so there's sometimes that gets in the road. And but yeah, no, I'm the kind of guy that when a discussion takes place, I like to look the individual in the eye, and facial expression that makes a big part in my decision making, and also the way we discuss things. Because I look at the social media, you can't tell if the guy's sarcastic or if he's quite serious. So.
Yeah, I know. It would have been a very nerve-wracking campaign that way. Well, thanks again, and congratulations one more time, Kevin.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, social media obviously played a big part in this election. And at 2 o'clock in the morning when I wasn't sleeping, I can tell you a lot of my posts, a lot of grammar mistakes and a lot of spelling mistakes, but I tried to do my best. So thank you very much, and I'm glad to be sitting here on this side of the camera. Thank you.
Thanks. And now we have Mayor Given. We had to talk to him fast so we can get back to his party.
Yes. Congratulations, Bill.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, guys. Really appreciate it. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here, of course.
So go ahead, Helen. Oh, I was just wondering if you're breathing a big sigh of relief. I didn't think that you were ever in trouble for, getting reelected, but you never know. People get fickle out there.
No, you know what? You absolutely don't take anything for granted. I think if anything, experience over the last couple of years globally, in North America, here in Alberta, says that unexpected things can happen. And that was obviously always in the back of my mind. And then also social media kind of weighs on your mind a little bit nowadays too. And that's something that's new from the first time that I was elected to council. Having said that, I really appreciate the trust that Grande Prairie voters have shown in me tonight.
So Bill, what's the primary strength you bring to council?
I suppose my primary strength would probably be the ability to think long term. And to engage council members. I think one of the jobs of mayor is to work to make sure that you're allowing space for everybody to be involved in the conversation. And I think I've managed to do that without being overbearing or directing council. I always think of the role of mayor as kind of a job of being a coach of council. Some people are easier to coach than others. But the mayor doesn't get to tell council what to do, and as both of you know, that's not the case. And so I think one of my primary strengths is being able to work with council so that we can get a good result. May not always be the one that I was looking for, but that in the end the team comes first, and I think we've always worked well together.
So Bill, did you discover anything during this campaign that would say, yeah, I didn't do a good job of that last council, I want to do a better job of it this council?
Oh, that's a really interesting question, Helen. I think one of the things that's evolving is the way elected officials communicate with the public. Obviously, social media play a big role in that, and our ability to go directly to the voters is an important thing. But more than that, I think one of the challenges for elected officials and for the organization of the city is how to find a trusted source of information that everybody believes and everybody hears. Back when I was first elected, you could put an ad in the newspaper and put it on 2 different radio stations and you were good. You knew everybody heard it. But that's not the case today. And I think that that's one of the big challenges for the city is even though we may be communicating more than we ever have before, I'm not sure that people are hearing it as much as they might have in the past. I think that's something we can do a better job of.
So are you aware that by being re-elected tonight, you have tied Mayor George Repka's record?
I was not aware of that, no. I was not aware of that, and that's obviously a really big honor. I think each individual council member and councils as a collective are really stewards of the community for a period of time. There are many stewards of the community who've come before us. We are just the latest in a long chain of people who care passionately about Grande Prairie, and it's an honor to be in that same chain as some of the illustrious people that have come before us.
Yes. So, Bill, I don't know, I can't remember what year you first got elected on council, but are you aware you have many more years to go before you dethrone Helen Rice's record?
You know what? I think there are likely some records that aren't meant to be broken. Helen is a singular individual in the history of Grande Prairie. And if there was ever a time where anybody served as long as Helen did in terms of years, I think it's unlikely that they would have the impact that Helen has had. And I just, you know, I get this chance, Helen, to embarrass you, and I just want to say that you've been a fantastic mentor to all of us on council. I still remember the advice that you gave me the first time that I ran for council, that summer before I ever ran. We were at BJ's, I think it was. We went for coffee. But Helen has had a huge impact on our community, and the numbers tell a bit of that story, but everybody that's ever worked with Helen knows the rest of the story. Absolutely.
So you got 5 new people. Is that a huge challenge?
No, you know, I think each one of these newcomers to council, even though they may not have been on council before, have vast experience and knowledge to bring to the table. I know our administration has done a lot of work thinking about the orientation process to ensure that we can get the new council up to speed as soon as possible. And my job as mayor is to think about that process and the strategic planning process to make sure that we can have a solid vision for what we want to accomplish over the next 4 years. But no, I don't have any worries about this team that is assembling tonight. I think we've got a great bunch of skills there that will serve the community very, very well.
I agree with you there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good luck.
Speaking of the new team, we have a lot of them rolling into City Hall right now, and
Absolutely. Let's make sure that everybody gets a chance. Thanks so much to both of you for tonight, and to both of you for your service to the City of Grande Prairie over the years. Helen, thank you so much for being a great mentor to me and the rest of us on council. Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks, Bill.
I suppose if we ask Chris Thiessen up here, we're going to have to endure the hug.
In that case, let's ask Jackie Clayton to come up first. Chris is gonna wrinkle my shirt or something. Hi, Jackie. Congratulations.
Hello. Thank you so much.
So congratulations.
Thanks, Helen.
So how do you feel?
Well, relieved. I'm, to be honest, I've worked on a lot of other people's campaigns, and being an incumbent is a different environment for people. It's first time around, you're able to have a different perspective of what you can fix. And when you're running as an incumbent, you're sometimes lumped into decisions that you may not have supported. So good and bad can work in favor for you to be an incumbent. It can also work against you. So it definitely was a different approach this time around. I really enjoyed the first time I ran was great. Second time I ran was crazy stressful.
So did any surprises come up on issues that surprised you?
On issues, not necessarily. I think as a council, we expected photo radar to be an issue. We also expected that taxes are always an issue. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that's going to run and say they want to raise taxes. So, I mean, it's always going to be an issue. I think there was I got a question from a resident the other day about separating church and state. That was a little bit of a surprise for me, but no real prevalent issues that were surprises, to be honest.
Okay. What about time management for you, Jackie?
For me personally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've already gone through one cycle now, and now you're on to your second term.
For sure.
And 4 years is a long time to be having to worry about priorities in your life. You have a business, professional life, you have a family life.
For sure.
And council is your second family. This is, it consumes a lot of your time.
When I chose to run last time, it was the right time for me in the sense that my children were older, and now they're obviously 4 years older. I think that I'm very fortunate in my professional job that it works hand in hand with a lot of government discussions, and I've been recognized to be a very thoughtful process person in the sense that if there's an issue that potentially could be a conflict, I have no problem removing one hat and putting on another hat. My sort of life works very well together. I'm fortunate in my small business. I've had the same manager since my oldest son was 3 weeks old, so 12 years I've had the same manager at my small business. So that really makes that piece of my life not a lot of management, but my full-time job and council as a part-time job, they work very well together, so it's
Great
good.
to hear. Great to hear. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
That's it?
That's it. That's all
You're
you
letting
get.
me off easy. Okay, I just want to say a couple things. So first of all, thank you to Dan and Helen. Mostly thank you to Helen. Last time I thanked Helen was at a council meeting at midnight, and by then we were very, very tired, and I was very emotional. But I truly, truly am going to miss Helen. The memories that the names and the places and the history that Helen can remember are second to none. I'm going to miss Lauren and Dwight, and especially Rory Tarrant. But thank you, Helen. Your guidance has been great, and I'm glad I had an opportunity to serve one term with you. So thank you.
Yes, thanks, Jackie. We'll let you get back to your party.
We should make her tell us where it is. I see Eunice Friesen is here.
We'll jump you in here, Eunice. Yes. I'll give you a hug. There you go. Congratulations.
Thank you. And Helen gets a congenial pat on the shoulder.
So, were you surprised when the results started rolling in?
I think I used the word gobsmacked. I was very surprised, and I still am not quite.
Well, you were number one. Eunice,
Oh my goodness.
by a huge, huge margin. I don't know if you guys can do the math here. You won by 3 votes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So every door that you knocked on helped bump you right to the top of that list.
Oh my goodness.
Did you not have, I know you did, so have it predicted by several people that you would, if not top the polls, be in the top 3?
I did get a lot of encouragement that I would certainly show well in the polls. I didn't anticipate, I thought that was blowing a bit of smoke when they say, oh, 1 or 2 or whatever. I didn't anticipate that. I really, like, this will get recounted and, or is it?
I don't think anyone's going to call her.
Goodness.
And so, but you know, someone once told me on council, that really doesn't mean anything because you could be nobody's first choice as long as you're everybody's 8th.
That's exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Just like I've heard the saying, B's and C's get degrees. So
Yeah. Well,
I don't think that's a philosophy to live by.
hey guys, I'm average for a lot of people.
So,
Yeah.
what strength are you going to bring to council?
The strength that I bring to council is really what I've brought to my business and personal life. I have a knack of putting a lot of moving parts together very quickly and seeing where things can go. So it leads to a little innovation, outside the box thinking, and just a really different way of quickly assessing things and understanding them that, as I say, has done very well for us in business. And the other thing that I'm fairly strong about, I don't have a ton of enemies. I have good relationships, and I'm looking forward to bringing that to my fellow councillors and to other stakeholders in the community with whom we'll interact.
So, the only concerns I heard expressed during the campaign were that you're too busy.
Right. So what people don't understand is that I don't have a real job. I have been for the last number of years. So about 3 years ago, a little more, my dad became ill. And we hired someone into our business so that I could be free to help my mom out. And when Dad passed away, the business was working so well that I never jumped back in. So I didn't have a real job. So I started doing volunteering. I was on a number of boards, the majority of which I have resigned from in order to run for council. So as it sits now, I have 2 provincial appointments. One I work about 10 hours a month on, and the other I work about 3 days a month on. And that is, that's what I do. So I'm thinking this will fit quite nicely into my life.
So campaigning was a pretty long process, pretty busy process as well.
Yeah.
Were there any issues that came up that surprised you?
There was an issue that didn't come up that surprised me. I thought, it seems to me that the issue of urban hens will come before this next council again. And I had only a handful of questions about that. And that surprised me a bit. I thought it might come up a little more. And then I think Jackie mentioned the one about the separation of church and state came from one individual. and why were there separate school systems still, and that sort of thing. And that one kind of it was a complete surprise because it wasn't mentioned at any level by anyone else to me until that very question came. Yeah, so no huge surprises, just that little one that made me go, oh, okay. So I answered and away we went.
Okay.
So have you looked at the council committees and decided which you were going to ask for?
No, and I'll tell you why. I was busy campaigning.
Okay.
That's a good answer, actually.
Yeah, I just, you know what, once I get the
Yeah.
job, I can deal with that when I have the job. And now that I do, I guess I'll be up looking at committees tonight.
So,
You learn to pace yourself. That would be my advice. Learn to pace yourself.
yeah, it's a marathon,
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially with the extra year being tacked on to terms.
Yeah. Well, I'm ready for it. I was saying right early on when I was deciding whether to run or not, I was not afraid to do the job, certainly knowing it would be a learning curve and knowing that it is hard work, but I wasn't afraid of doing the job. I was really intimidated by campaigning. So with this part out of the way, I'm feeling really confident about the job itself.
That's great.
Well, thank you.
Great.
Yes, thank you,
Thank you
Eunice.
both. Thank you.
Yeah.
So who have we got next? We've got Clyde Blackburn here.
Sure, come on up, Clyde.
Dylan, don't take off.
Congratulations, Clyde. Pass the microphone to you.
Thank you.
So you'll be glad I'm not there because I won't be there to boss you around.
That could happen anyway. Huh?
So, how are you surprised?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's a real honor to have been chosen, you know, and I had high hopes for winning this election, but you just never know until the work is done and the voting starts, you know.
Yeah. So
What do
you
hope
have
to bring? Oh, sorry.
sorry, you have experience being on the school board.
That's right. I was on the school board from 1992 to 2004. So I was in I was in 3 elections in 4 terms. Our third term, we were acclaimed, and I have to tell you, it feels kind of weird to be acclaimed when really you should be there because the voters put you there. You know?
Right. So what style of leadership do you think you're going to be bringing onto city council? It's a little bit of a different environment because you're working with a group of other passionate council members, and you're not going to always see eye to eye, and things are going to come down to a vote. I don't know if that's the way it happened at the school board or not, but I can tell you there's going to be times when you're not going to see eye to eye with your fellow councillors.
Yeah, that won't be new to me, I have to tell you. But you know, I think that what's really important when we're dealing with any issue amongst 9 people is that we've all got to learn from one another, perspectives, facts that we might not have known before, and in the end, my objective is to come up with an informed decision that has to do with having learned all that I can learn about a subject, and whether or not the decision we're going to make is going to have an effect on other things around the city.
So what do you hope to accomplish first?
You know, I haven't really thought about accomplishing any one thing first other than getting to understand the role and make sure that I learn the rules, because I can step out of line pretty easily.
So anything that you're really excited about digging into, any committee you thought about, or?
I don't know that I've thought about committees. What I'm really interested in is the intermunicipal collaboration. I'd love to be involved in that in some way or another. I had some experience for a few years on the airport commission, and I'll be interested to, if not to be on that, to be able to at least keep tabs on how things are going out at the airport. And other than that, I'm ready to learn whatever it takes to serve.
Good. Well, thank you for coming down here.
Well, thank you for having me. And Helen, thank you so much for your service. I've really enjoyed working with you away from council. I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to work with you on council, but I wish you the very best.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
you.
Thanks, Clyde, and
Dan,
congratulations
thank you.
again.
Thank you.
Dylan Gressy, maybe because he keeps wanting to run away.
Sounds good. Congratulations, Dylan.
Well, thank you.
So I bet you're excited.
I am so excited right now. I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm excited to
Dylan,
learn the.
you have been excited and pumped during the whole campaign.
I've been excited since I was born, Helen.
What are you most excited about?
You know, I'm looking at this room and I'm looking at some of the people that I'm going to get to work with, and I can't wait for this team. There's some of them that I went to ask for advice before I even decided to run. There's many of them that I've come to get to know very well over the last month or so, and I can't wait to work with them. There's a great team that Grande Prairie gave us, and I'm excited to learn it.
Yeah, and your excitement definitely shows through. I think arguably you ran the most comprehensive campaign out of any of the candidates. It sounded like you were very well studied. Like, how much of a head start did you have on some of your competition out there?
Well, I've been thinking about this since last September. I kind of got the inkling I was going to run in January, and I spent months just reading every document I could, watching every council meeting, visiting some of the committee meetings, and getting as many copies as I could just to learn what council does and what they're working on.
So I heard that you did a lot of homework and research and posted it all on your Facebook page that the other candidates then helped themselves to. Is that true?
I heard a few candidates tell me that my website was the best place to research the city. And you know what, though? A big reason I launched so early and I launched with so much stuff was I wanted to up the discourse this election, and I wanted to create that conversation. So whoever it helped, I'm glad it did. We had a great election, a great campaign from everyone, and I hope I got to be a little part of influencing that.
Right. So did you find that anything came up that you hadn't thought of already or that you hadn't researched? All of a sudden there's this issue that you didn't even know was an issue.
Well, I think that, yeah, I think that I've learned so much about the city, especially when it comes to, I've been working really hard to learn the development side of things and how RFPs, how tenders work, different ways we could do that, the design standards in the city versus the county, and that was a whole world that I didn't have experience with, but I knew was important, and it's been a fun world to learn about.
Yes.
And the fun has just begun.
I'm sure it has.
You know, one thing I'm noticing is I'm looking at the list of names, and I believe you will be the youngest member on council. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
I don't know, how old are you?
Well, I'm 32 years old, so I am a couple weeks off Grande Prairie's median age.
What are you? Very nice, okay.
But I've got some people to learn from, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Helen, first of all, how old were you when you got elected onto council? Because
34.
Yeah, I knew you were down in the 30s somewhere. Yeah.
So, yes, you're in for exciting times, and we'll be watching you.
Cool. Well, and I hope you'll both be available for some coffees as I come looking for advice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I hope that you're going to continue the GP Roundtable so that the residents of Grande Prairie can stay informed on social media about all the issues that are out there.
Yeah, I'll be talking to the rest of council. I want to find something that works for us as a team. I don't want it to be a Dylan Bressy thing, so maybe it needs a different format, maybe it needs different branding, maybe we need to do something different altogether. But I am really committed to figuring out how can we as council engage with the community. But I want to be doing that as a team.
This guy at
That's
the back
awesome.
there, standing there, leaning against the wall, he's the guy that was very, very up to date on social media for council.
Yeah, so Helen's pointing at Rory.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it was a coffee with Rory that I went home and told my wife Naomi, I think I'm running now.
Yeah, and I
So I don't
understand.
like them.
From what I understand, he grinded his 2 cents together a few times to talk about some issues. Rory's 2 cents. Yeah. So on that, why don't we say congratulations to Dylan?
Well, thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Ellen.
And let's bring in Rory, and he's a retiring counselor. We didn't get a chance to talk to him earlier, so Rory, if you don't mind joining us.
I thought I was done.
So what do you think when you look over the new roster?
Yeah, it's, and I think we have some great talent here. It's great to see some people returning and to bring that experience and to bring that continuity to council. But it's great to see people like with Dylan and Clyde and Wade and Eunice that just have this enthusiasm and they're ready to learn. And, some of them have been around the community a long time, some are newer, and they bring just a very different experiences with them that I think is going to be great for the new council.
Yeah. How close could you predict that list of winners?
Oh, how close? I knew there was going to be a bit of a bubble, and as you can see, in between the, going from like the 8th spot to going to 11th or 12th, it's only separated by a few hundred votes, and so that was, I thought there would be that in there. For the most part, I think it's pretty reflective of how the campaigns were run. I think that certainly there was a lot of hard work put in by all candidates, but there were some that just really shone and really took to social media, took to the doors, and just really had more of a presence there, and I think it's reflective in the numbers there tonight.
Right.
Good.
So you're still on duty for another week or so?
Yeah, I was just informed a few days ago that I'm actually not off the hook tonight.
So life outside of council? How's that looking?
Right now, just evaluating where I am in life, and the big thing for me is just wanting to focus a little bit more. I have several businesses and lots of other nonprofit commitments and whatnot, and obviously with a young a 1-year-old now, there's lots of different things going on, and so just wanted to move into a phase of life where I was a little more focused and a little more not running a million directions, and being able to put my heart and mind towards one thing. And so we'll see. I'm evaluating what that one thing will be, and we'll see how things evolve in the next.
I don't think we've heard the last of you.
Absolutely not. I love Grande Prairie. I love the people. I am not going anywhere, and I absolutely will do what I can to help build the community, to be maybe a source of wisdom for some of the newer councillors, and to be around to help Grande Prairie be the best it can be.
Yeah, and feel really proud that you're walking away from, first of all, a really wonderful organization, but you get to walk away with your head held high. You were known as someone who was very engaged in the community, someone who's very intelligent, very intelligently researched, for sure, for the topics that you were responsible for, and very likable person. So, you did an excellent job for the city, and I want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, guys.
Wade Plot.
Congratulations, Wade.
Thanks. Thank you.
So, the results, the voters have spoken. Do you feel that, first of all, how do you feel about the results? You made it in.
Hey, I'm in. I'm happy, right? I'm happy. I'm get to play the game now, and I'm excited about it. So yeah.
Yeah. So the campaigning, it's a tough job, right? There's so much that has to happen within such a short time period. Do you feel that you got your message across to the voters out there?
I feel we tried really hard. I have to give my wife sitting here. I have to give her full credit, because I'm not a social media guy by nature. It's not my forte. My wife looked after all of that. So, which I honestly think if we hadn't done that, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. So I didn't realize what a presence social media had. On a side note, though, I have to ask Helen if she remembers one of the bets she made, that I was never going to put my hand up to run for council, and if she's ever going to pay back the glass of wine that I think she might owe me at this point. Yeah.
You've looked at it 2 or 3 times before you finally stepped off that cliff.
Yeah.
So what was different this time?
I think for me, honestly, a huge reason was our companies I didn't have a partner at the time in our businesses. Our kids were little. It was booming last time around. We were really close. And I think we've had an amazing partner step into our life with Chris Newberry and his wife Kelly, and that's been a huge help for me being able to step away from the businesses, which is really scary. I mean, that's how we still operate. That's how we still feed our family at this point. So it was nice to have the peace of mind to be like, he's got this covered, and I can go try something else, this is what I've wanted to do for a long time. So Helen's right. I was kind of poor get off the pot after 3 times of saying I was going to do it. So
what's your biggest strength you'll bring to council?
you know, as a good name out there. As I look at the 8, I think we all have our strengths. I hope for me, as the team of the 8 people that are on there, I hope I can help with maybe some financial pieces, some construction pieces. But at the end of the day, I love people, so I'll go talk to any user group out there. So I think when I look at that group, I think we've got user groups covered across the board, I would hope. And as long as we're all chatting and talking to community, you know, then we can all work together and make this a really fun 4 years.
Did any issues come up during the campaign that you weren't aware of?
No, not really. Like, I think I've been fortunate because I've been involved with home builders and UDI for so long, which might be maybe a problem coming up with some, you know, maybe having to step away from some decisions, which is fine. I feel like I've been at that table or this table lots of times for industry, and I love a lot of people that work at the city. There's some really amazing people that work at the city, and I'm looking forward to be part of that team. And I'm a relationships guy, so our company's homes were founded on building homes, building relationships, and I'm looking forward to hopefully having a lot of great relationships within the city now.
Good. So were there any big issues that you thought that you might be able to get on council and kind of take care of right away? Is there any of those, like those big issues that were addressed at the forums and while you were talking to voters? Was there any low-lying fruit that you thought, well, city should be able to handle that right away?
I think off the start, and we've heard a really amazing new manager for Eastlink Center, so I'd like to meet him. But I think Eastlink Center to me still represents something that could really build our community to another level that it was built for. But it was also, if we can stop the leakage, maybe we can, you know, invest in some more RCMP or some more things for the community. And that's for me is when you're running a $170 million budget, can we look at this budget through a different lens? And that's what I'm hoping to bring is maybe a different lens with some stuff of what's the best use of $170 million sometimes. And I think, you know, I guess there's 8 of us that are all going to think that we have to figure out what the best use of that $170 million. But I'm comfortable and confident that I think I can articulate some things that I think would help out in that scenario.
That's great.
Well, Wade, thank you.
I still want my glass of wine from you, Helen. I'm just throwing it out there. And on a side note, I'm learning the new rules already. I thought I was like this excited little puppy. I come in here tonight with a bottle of red wine and some champagne and a bucket of ice and scotch, and apparently we can't celebrate yet. But
no alcohol in City Hall.
Yeah, I know, and fair enough, and there shouldn't be. But I thought maybe out there we could have a little cheers with the new group, because I'm all about building teams. I think we have to have a good team, not only with council, but with the senior people in departments, and I'm excited about that. I think we have some really key people there. So,
yeah. Really happy you made the team. So
thanks, Dan. I appreciate some help you've given me over the years for sure too.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. Let's get Yad.
Congrats, Yad, my old friend. Yad and I were elected together in 2007.
Yes.
Yes. I'll give you that microphone. And how are you feeling tonight after the election?
I'm feeling good.
But
at least I can put my voice in and see if we can do better for the community and city.
Yeah. Was it a tough?
Part of the team seems like team is very good.
Yeah. Was it a tough election? Did you find the campaigning the second time around really hard?
I don't know, was it tough or whatever, but I did what best I could do. Because it was short, I decided on the last minute, and it worked out good.
So, Yet, I see you as bringing to the table a very strong business and economic development perspective. Would you agree with that?
Yes, that's the reason one reason I run for it, because we need friendly Grande Prairie to be business.
So, but the bad news is the good news. You know, you're extremely busy. So how does that?
That part I do understand, but I had all the places, the managers sitting there, and also my son Vikram, he's taken over quite a bit of stuff.
So you got good management team backing you up.
Yes. That's one reason I run again, to do something back to community.
You hear me? Don't forget to listen to Shaminter.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what they want me to do something else beside the business now.
So you got busy time ahead of you.
It's a big time, busy time. I understand this because it's a lot of work we need to do, and we were in the team 207, and we done a lot of work. And
yeah, like what Helen said, about your business background, your businesses have been involved with, development permits across the city. Yeah. You do some development, you do some trucking, you're into sales. It's quite tourism. A wide, tourism. It's quite a wide gamut.
It is a very diversified business. I deal with the city, I deal with the county, so I know the both side, how the county takes advantage of the city, right, being a development permit.
And you deal with provincial regulations all the time too, don't you?
Yes, that's other big thing, because trucking is always an issue with the, transportation and all the things are. So I have kind of quite a bit of knowledge of all the business, and hopefully I can help with our new team into the city council. And the big thing I like to do, cooperation from the regional. So if we can work together, I think this Northern Alberta and Grande Prairie will be very strong boys, and we will be growing fast.
Yeah, so your experience will be pretty helpful in bringing this new team together, because we do have some new people who are very, very new at politics. And you've always been the one that kind of rallies people socially, making sure that, we do bond together as a family, right?
That's true, and I'm really positive what council we have now. This all kind social business people we are involved with, and it'll be very good to work with it, and lots of learning to come. There's no doubt, which is we know in the last time 207. We took a little while to do it, but then we did it. And overall, we're going to miss Helen.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah,
soon as she speaks, everybody wakes up.
She's one person you don't ignore, that's for sure.
You can't ignore her, But,
yeah, so congratulations again, Yad. We really
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm in, and I got a service for the community, so do whatever the best I can do.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to seeing you on council.
All right, which one of you guys wants to go first? Kevin McLean. I see you're having the sheriff drive you around again. Chauffeur. So, Kevin, was that a shocker?
Every election, you never know. I always fight 6th, 7th, 9th. I've been a 9th before. 2007, I believe I was 35 votes short. So, yeah, it's always tough when you don't get in, but we are a great country because of democracy.
Yes, and this time again, pretty tight margins, 64 votes short. Yeah, and I don't think you should think that you could have gone out and done more work, because I know you're working hard on your campaign the entire time. Don't let that haunt you at all. People just, every now and then, they want change on council.
Dan, I worked with you 2010 to 13, and it was an honor. And of course, Helen, when Councillor Yad, he's going to be sworn in here on Monday, was speaking. We're going to miss Helen. We have a lot of experience. For me, I got to meet some people I would have never met. Councillor Radburn, he was incredible. Councillor Logan on his final tour of duty, and Councillor Rice, 38 years. I cannot be blessed with the people I got to meet and within the city hall and within our city. And I have no regrets. I think it's because I speak frank. I don't butter it up, and I'll always do that with anybody. And I don't matter if it's election or whatever. We heard about the regional, and if we don't get things straight here, taxes are pretty high, but I think we're going to, with new CEO and a new council's been elected, because we got some issues, and if all the money is going to be in MD Grandview and County, it's going to create other issues. So I like speaking directly, and I don't like buttercoating it.
Right. So what's next on the horizon for you, Kevin?
Well, I'm looking forward to family life. I got 2 10-year-old girls, and I had that even on council. Like if they said, well, there's a gala, can kids come socially? They'd say no. I said, well, I'm not going. So for me, it's more of family life, and to be honest with you, business. Now my doors have opened, and I will make a lot more money than I did at council, and I know I will. And I want to make money, and I want to build a business.
Okay, what about other elections and other, other levels of government? I know you've run as the Liberal candidate in the past for our region. Any prospects of that in the future?
I think that's reaching out. I think I'm going to put my time on working in business, and that's where I can't reach out past 2 years or 3 years from now, Dan, but I'm going to work in business. We're an entrepreneurship area that most people that work here, we're #1 in Canada for people taking chances, and that's what creates opportunities. But other than that, I'm quite blessed that I was on council for 2 terms, and quite blessed that I ran 7 campaigns, 5 for the city. So, and I ran a positive campaign about our future's bright, and our future is very bright. We have a lot of young population in their 20s and 30s, and we're going to grow. We're going to grow immensely.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Well, Kevin, thank you for coming down here.
Well, thank you, Helen, and thank you, Dan. I wish I would have wore white socks, Helen.
Mr. Thiessen.
Mr. Thiessen, to round off the candidates for the night.
So, were you shocked to see yourself come second?
No, actually I finished second last time, so it was a pretty comfortable position for me to be in. I was pretty happy with that. Actually, once you finish first in voting for a councillor, usually what happens is people start talking about mayor and stuff like that, and I don't want that to be a focus. I want to be part of a really great team. We got a really diverse team I'm looking at right here, right now. And I think there's a lot of voices that came together to bring these people up, and they're going to have voices in our community, so I want to just be a part of that, and really, really happy.
What is going to be your primary focus going forward?
My primary focus is to continue doing what we did the first time round. Social housing. I know there's a lot of money in a pool that nobody knows how to get their hands on provincially. And I'd like to get some of our hands on that and start developing some social housing here in Grande Prairie and improve affordability. I'd love to see the edible landscaping policy bloom even further. But most importantly, I think getting to know the team is a top priority for me, and trying to help them as you help me, and Dan, as you help me as you're leaving council, sort of learn the ropes there, and then sit down with the new county council and start discussing how we can work together.
So that's going to be your focus.
Those are my 3 main focuses right now, because I think all in all, if our team works well together, if we can work well with the county, and if we can take care of the needs of our people, we're doing our job right in the city of Grande Prairie, and I think that is muchos importante.
Chris, you have a button that says be the change you want to see. Can you explain that to us?
Yeah, it's just, a lot of people talk about how they want change in the world and how they think that change should happen. The only change that really happens that's monumental for anybody is really the change that we achieve inside ourselves. So if we're constantly improving ourselves or reaching to our highest potential, and that also translates to the larger community as well. If we want to be the change, if we want Grande Prairie to be the best place to live, work, play, and raise a family in, then we all have to be all hands in on deck, and we got to believe that that change is possible, and that there's a better community waiting ahead of us.
So did you hear during the campaign, people love your positivity, they love your energy. Did you hear that again and again?
I just got nothing but love, actually. Like even honestly, I thought I was gonna have a couple speed bumps. A lady emailed me about fluoride and said that I almost lost her vote on fluoride, and so I explained the process and how we got there and my reasoning behind it. And she emailed me back. I thought she was gonna say, when I saw her email name pop up, that she was gonna not vote for me, and that was unsatisfactory, but in fact she just poured out more love. And you know what, that's something that I don't think Grande Prairie gets enough credit for outside of Grande Prairie. Inside Grande Prairians know there's a lot of caring people in this community, and there's a lot of people, and because we have a caring community, we recognize the caring capacity in the people around us, and I think that love that I received is really what it gave out and is reflected back at me, so I'm really honored by that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you, Chris, and thank you for coming down, and thank you for waiting.
No, that was my honor. I wanted to see what everyone had to say, so thank you so much. And before I do go, Helen, I don't know if everybody out there knows this, but I'm going to say it. You've been like a mentor and a mother And I say to my wife, my girlfriend on council, because I always make time for you anytime you call, anytime you send a text, and I really appreciated your presence on council. And I'm kind of sad that you're not going to be on council, but I know you're going to be around. And same thing with Lauren Radburn and Dwight Logan. All of you are great mentors to me and to many members of our council of the past, present, and I know in the future, because you're all going to be around. So thank you so much for your guidance, your love, and your support. I don't think I'd be here without you.
Well said. Well said.
Thank you, guys.
Chris. So,
I believe that wraps it up for us.
I'm
seeing the nod, yes. We are done for our election broadcast 2017.
Okay.
We will see you all back here in 4 years. I don't know if Helen and I will be hosting this, but definitely someone at the City of Grande Prairie will put on the election night broadcast. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for putting up with us.
I want to thank the staff for the great infrastructure they gave us to work within, Dan. It was very, very awesome and the donuts.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you guys all. This doesn't happen without you. Cool.
It rolled along, didn't it?
Mm.